We got rats. We got sand waves that look like giant worms on the podcast known as
Trapped Under Plastic, the podcast that disproves the assumption that arrested development in American males invariably leads to the lifelong engagement with the criminal justice system.
You know, I know Arrested Development is a TV show.
It's a great TV show.
But I actually don't know what the term means.
It means that you'd never become an adult.
Oh, yeah, please. I'm trying to do that. Yeah. I'm trying to slow the aging process.
My counter to this is that it's stating that we because we never grow into like a fully formed adult brain, that means that we would be involved in the criminal justice system. I mean, we'd go to jail and prison.
Yeah.
And my response to that is, what do you think? Where do you think I am on weeks that I don't have a video coming out?
You're just visiting the prison system?
Yeah, I got my regular cell. Scotty boy, it's as of the recording today, it is new video Friday for Scotty. Scotty had a new video come out today, and in the Preamble Ramble, I didn't have this planned at all. It's not written down, but I wanted to talk about your video because I enjoyed it so much.
Okay, thank you.
And it was your LAN party experience for a miniature game, like a little mini tournament with your friends here at the studio.
Yeah. We call it an in-house tournament. So when we played Han, we always called them in-houses. I don't know why we called them that, but yeah.
It just makes you and your other nerdy friends feel like more of the in crowd.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, it was a weird term,
but it was it was so much energy and movement, and it just felt fun and never felt stagnant. When you're going through like thinking of a tournament or a battle report or something like that, in my brain, I just feel like at some point it's just going to kind of slow down. And that never happened.
Yeah. It wasn't supposed to be like a battle report, you know? It was more like an experience kind of thing.
Yeah. It was fun. And I found myself, I'm like, I do not give a fuck about Shatterpoint. But I found myself like interested in what was going to happen. Now I know all but Matt of the people there, and maybe I have met Matt once or twice, but I know them all, and so I was like, you did the starting lineups of all the people in there. I'm like, oh man, I knew who's gonna win this thing.
Fucking Curtis.
Yeah, dude, you get the poor draw of playing Curtis round one.
I did, yeah. And also we didn't finish our game. And so the way that the tournament doc says you determine who wins is basically if you end in the middle of a struggle, whoever is just holding more objectives just wins that struggle. So because he had won the first one, and because when the timer ran out, he was controlling more, he won the second one and then won 2 out of 3. But I want to play him in a full game. Okay, this is the rock that I'm going to die on. Okay, I didn't actually lose. Okay, no.
Yeah. This is something that I feel like they probably didn't, but they inadvertently, going back to last episode, we talked about Magic the Gathering and how many games have come from that. And there's actually a bunch of really interesting articles. Some I think that you would value reading by Mark Rosewater, one of the lead designers of Magic for like 30
He says some good shit.
Yeah, he's got there's some stuff that you kind of dig for from the ages of early Magic articles that he's written that like hold through. They're almost like written on a stone slab that you go back to 20 years later and realize like how much weight there was to the shit he was saying. But anyway,
apparently he's Jesus or God.
No, he's just Moses, dude.
Okay. Oh, right. Moses got the tablets from God.
I know. Okay. I don't know who gave him to Mark Rosewater. He saw him in a vision.
Richard Garfield, is that his name?
Yeah. I don't know. I think at some point that Garfield handed over what we know Magic to be now is couldn't be where it is without Garfield, but
right, yeah, Mark, he's carried it for a long time now.
But anyway, so when you're talking about that, and I saw it in the video, it made me think of Magic for tournament rules for games going to time. And there's a thing that I wish they did in Shatterpoint that they do in Magic, where when it goes to time, it goes to rounds. And so what that means is you have X number of turns, and here it could be X number of activations. So you both know. Okay, so what'll happen is like you've hit time. All right. When we hit time, we put out a dice, and it goes up to 5 turns. And if it's my turn when time is called, I'm turn 1, and then it goes to 5.
Okay, I like that.
So you have an understanding of we're at time, and now we know how the game is scored to determine this, and you have a limited amount of activations to try to achieve this new goal, instead of the person that's like more keeping really close eye on the clock, thinking you're going to time, and already readjusting their strategy to kind of gotcha.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
I'm not saying Curtis did that. I'm just saying that, like,
it's part of winning.
Yeah.
In an event, especially. Yeah. One thing I didn't really discuss was like the mechanics of how we dealt with stuff like that, because that's kind of the boring part that slows the video down, right? But they have this thing in the tournament doc called Mission Critical, where like when you hit the last 30 minutes, every time a character activates, you add a black cube to the struggle tracker. And I don't know if you understand what that means, like in the gameplay sense, but it shortens the game a lot, and it makes it a lot more intense. So it's kind of like that, but it's less like, what's the word? Concrete. Like with your example, it's very obvious to see when this game is going to end. With that example, it's a little bit more like loose on like when a game is actually going to end. But it encourages to go faster.
Sure. Yeah. So you know it's getting the bubble's getting smaller, but you don't have a easy to calculate equation to know exactly those variables.
But I like that idea a lot, actually. I think it's really fun.
Okay, so next tournament you do that. The other feedback I had was, one, I want this video to do well, so everyone go out there to Scott's channel and watch it, and then tell all your friends about it. Because if it does well, then I told him he needs to do a Age of Sigmar Shatterpoint one, not Shatterpoint, Spearhead one.
Yes.
And then I'll come up and I'll play in that, and I'll crush all the nubs.
You're going to play Skaven?
Yeah.
Okay, that means I can play Death then. Okay, all right,
Yeah.
that works.
Yeah. So, and if you need more like zombies or skeletons that are painted, I got 100.
I might use some zombies. I haven't played with zombies in AOS ever, literally ever.
Yeah, it's a matter of what's the options of their Spearhead loadouts.
Oh right, because you just get what you get.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, you do some customization on the abilities and the artifacts and stuff, but like the rules are tight.
Do we know what the Spearhead for?
Yeah, we looked at it last time I was here.
we?
I brought the book.
Yeah, but
I can send you the picture.
Okay, I didn't like know what was actually in the army. Okay, probably some skeletons.
I think it's skeletons, but it's Blood Knights.
Ooh!
There's Vampire Lord on foot.
Ah!
I think there's something else too.
Tell me there's a Coven Throne in there.
No, there's no big shit.
Okay,
It's like your Blood Knights are your big scary fuckers in these smaller games, especially.
Yeah.
But
that'd be fun though, because that'd be quicker too.
Yeah, and the rules are tight. That kind of leads into my actual thing I wrote down for the Preamble Ramble. But before I say that, I want to say one more thing about your video is that I liked that you got to see a little bit of personality of all the players. I really thought that Britt shined. Like, she was so good. She had such positive energy. She was fun. She was very happy and still, like, you could tell, like, you know, she was still in the game and not just like a happy to be here, but like
she clobbered Other Dan in round one.
That's freaking great.
I loved Other Dan. I thought he added beautiful commentary.
Yeah,
he shit all over my favorite Star Wars movie. It was hilarious. Yeah, he's good.
Yeah, his breakdown of his favorite movies, and he was like, "Oh man, I bet like that conversation you had to edit out like 20 minutes of that."
Yeah, I know. He had a long answer about his favorite movie. Yeah,
which made up for Curtis's non-answer.
Yeah. And that was good. I had a lot of fun making that video. I think sometimes we forget, or not we, I'll just say I forget the reason why I got into this job in the first place. And that's because I have autonomy to do whatever I want. Now, there's obviously limitations within that. I can't make like a My Little Pony appreciation video and expect it to do well. But like, I should be able to do fun things, you know? Like, I've gotten to the point where I have this fun office. I should be able to kind of do whatever I want within the hobby world as long as it's like fun and applicable. And so that was kind of the realization that I had that led me to doing that. Was like, this is going to be a fun thing. Like, why not? We have the space. And it wasn't that hard, honestly. It was like one day of shooting and then it was an edit.
Yeah, it was well put together. You can definitely tell your skill in the editing beats lab. And it's whenever you put out a video like that, another reason why I really enjoyed it. One, I enjoyed it as just as entertainment as a spectator, but it also is very inspiring to me as a video creator, because I'm like, wow, there's little things that maybe if you don't make videos that you don't catch, or you just appreciate them, but you don't maybe understand that I like really see. I'm like, oh man, I could add more of that stuff. It's not overwhelming for me. It is if I think about all the things that you do, but so many things that you do that are so much better than me that I'm just like, wow,
bro.
I totally, you know, I'm inspired to improve or to try new things or to do little tweaks and try to improve my channel, which is really the history of like my channel, was seeing that like you made it feel like it was possible for me. So I stepped out of my comfort zone in a lot of places, and I'm like, I feel like, oh gosh, I need to kick myself in the ass because I feel like I haven't done as much of that lately, and I want to. So thank you.
Damn, bro. I feel like we should hug right now. Thank you so much for the compliments. I really appreciate it. Yeah.
No, you expected going into this episode.
No, this is awesome. I love it.
Yeah.
Starting out strong.
Right. I read all the rules in the Spearhead book.
Okay.
It's really great because the majority of that book is like just breaking down. There's a bit of the bullshit Warhammer lore at the beginning, per usual, and then it gets right into like all the list of the spearheads, and you get to the back, and it's like 12 pages, give or take, maybe a little bit more, but a lot of them are diagrams and in their little helping stuff. So it was like it took me like half hour to read through the whole rules.
What's the biggest omission in Vanguard that is found in the big game but not in Vanguard? Or Spearhead, sorry.
There's a lot of little things. So there's not, as far as I recall, there's not your faction terrain.
Okay, good.
So there's no faction terrain.
Okay.
There's no endless spells.
Okay.
Which is a big thing now because in Age of Sigmar 4th edition, endless spells don't cost you your points anymore.
Okay, so why not bring them, eh?
You can just fucking cast them.
Okay.
So there's the jury's still out on whether that's too powerful or whatever. And then it's a lot more simplified in terms of how you're scoring, because right now there's a lot of these the other rules on like how you score points, and they're broken down into what kind of whether you're a Chaos Army, Death, Order, Destruction.
Mm-hmm.
And so they have these basically cards that are for your, I can't remember what the term is, but if you're Chaos, right? And you use those to score points in a round. So it's a little bit more like specific there, but here that's just 2 decks. And you get 3 cards that you can score. You draw 3 cards at the start of the round.
Okay.
It's kind of like Guild Ball.
Every round you draw 3 cards?
So you draw up to 3 cards at
the
end of your round, and you can discard any of them. And draw up to 3.
Okay.
But each of them, they have a way on the top of the card to like how you can score points. But you could also use the card for its bottom of a card effect, which is a command point ability.
I love that. Yeah. Wow.
So you're picking a strategy. Are you doing this to score points, or am I doing this to turn the tide of the game?
Do you decide that in the round while playing, or at the beginning of the round, if you're going to use it for scoring?
You decide it when you play the card.
Wow.
And your opponents don't know what your cards are.
I love it. I love that.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's so cool.
That's so cool. Okay.
Yeah. So it's a little bit more streamlined in all like kind of the extraneous stuff that make it more competitive, but there's still the elements that they kept in it seem to really benefit those of you that are getting more of the strategy and understanding how to use these cards and that kind of stuff. So.
Okay. And these cards are in the main game as well, but just like more expanded?
I think it's a different system, but I could be wrong. I have not read the full new core rules yet. I watched some Warhammer Weekly.
Okay.
But that was one of mine.
Okay.
Speaking of Warhammer Weekly, I got a bone to pick in a second. I'm gonna let you go.
Bone to pick. All right. Me and my wife. I don't know if I mentioned this, but maybe I mentioned it. We bought 24 boosters of Lorcana. We played our first ever sealed event.
You did not tell me. This was news to me.
Okay, all right. So we bought 24 boosters. I've never done this before in a game, TCG, literally ever, but I've always wanted to. So I bought 24 boosters, and so we each had 12 boosters each. And we played 2 different sealed events in a best of 3, where the way it works is you just get 6 boosters and you make a deck, and some restrictions are lifted from normal deck building. And in the first best of 3, she won 2 out of 3 games, and in the second one, I won 2 out of 3 games.
Nice.
And so we're tied right now, 3-3 in a best of 7. So, but it was so fun, and I'm just like shocked. So I have spent my entire life playing video games, playing board games, thinking about strategy, being a fucking geek, and she has not. Okay, the fact that she can compete with me. I'm not saying that I'm good. She doesn't have that much experience, but she is shockingly good at the game. And I'm just like, it's so cool to see her do that and to be excited about the game and to play with her and to lose. Like, I love losing to my wife. It's amazing. We also pulled a card that was a full art holographic $111 card. Yeah, so we got super lucky, and that felt really fun.
Which character is it? Is it Donald Duck?
I think it's Cinderella. You know, I'm not like huge into Disney characters, but the game is fun.
Was it powerful in the game?
I don't think we drafted it. I think we put it in a sleeve and then put it away. We were like scared to like touch it. But because of that card we pulled, every single time we go to the source, she is always buying boosters.
Oh man,
it's bad, dude.
They got you.
I know, dude.
That free boosty in the starter deck.
Yeah, dude.
And now you just want one little hit.
I know, that's what it is, dude. And like whenever I go, she's like, "Can you pick me up a booster?" I'm like, "God damn it, you're addicted."
Just a little sniff of that crack.
I know, exactly.
Just a little one little bump. I just need a bump.
Just a bump, just a little bit. I'll get another one.
One booster is a bump. It's been a while.
Yeah, so I've never played a sealed event or any kind of draft event in a TCG ever, and I've always wanted to, and it was an amazing experience, and I want to do it more with other games as well.
Dude.
All right, I think that was my Preamble Ramble topic.
Okay. I got a couple other real quick ones for us to discuss. First of all, I decided to throw my hat in the ring. I'm teaching at Adepticon this year.
Hell yeah, brother.
Yeah. I think I'm just going to do, at least my strategy at this point is I'm going to teach one course and I'm teach 2 sections of it. Okay. And the working title, I'm not going to tell you anything else for the goody peepees. If you're coming to Adepticon, you want to sign up.
This is going to be mysterious.
It's the name of the class is Paint Hard, Paint Fast, No Mercy. So
that is unironically a title I feel like you would see at Adepticon, but I know you're saying it as like a partial joke.
Yeah.
But people would like use that unironically.
Yeah, 100%. Real serious. Yeah. If you take any class from me, you know it's gonna be completely serious. Next, I got a little story about arachnophobia. So. You watched the movie Arachnophobia before?
I have not, no.
Oh my God, you must watch that. It is one of my favorite horror movies of all time because it's like a comedy horror, but I fucking hate furry spiders, and that movie does it so well. So much.
Adding it to the watch list right now.
Practical effects in that. Also stars John Candy, bruh.
Not
John Candy, sorry, John Goodman.
Jeff Daniels.
Jeff Daniels is like the main character, but
John Goodman too. Okay, nice.
Yeah, he's the exterminator. Oh God. So anyway,
this looks great.
I had one of these. I don't know if you have one of these like chamois gloves to like wash your car or something.
Oh yeah, I know there.
Looks like a big mitt, whatever. And I used it to clean out the floor mats because I cleaned out my truck for the summer, and I had it sitting on the ledge outside my house to kind of dry out in the sun. The other night I'm coming back from walking the dog and I see there's a bunch of like stuff on it, and I was like, what the heck is this? Is it like something spill something? Is that bird poop? I go up there and it is a newly hatched section of spiders that was hundreds and hundreds of little spiders, and I'm like, whoa. But look,
just like that.
Yeah, by and large I like spiders at a distance because they do good things. It's a very damp season this year, which means a lot of mosquitoes, which means we need all them spiders and them bats to kill all them mosquitoes and gnats. So I'm like, I'm gonna let these little babies live. I'm not gonna move it. I'm just gonna let these babies live. It's a little close to the house, right by the garage door, but we're just gonna let them live. I told my wife, and she's like,
big mistake.
She's like, why didn't you kill them all immediately? I'm like, look, they were just cute little babies.
Yeah.
Maybe hundreds of them, but they're cute little babies. I mean, whatever. The next morning, so the door from my garage to leave, I have to walk right by where that mitt was. It's like 3 inches from when I leave the door. And so the next morning I go out to walk the dog. I open the door, and I look at the mitt. And next to this hundreds and hundreds of baby spiders is the mama. Now, when they're baby spiders, you can't really tell what kind of spider they're going to be.
Yeah.
And this was a wolf spider the size of a fucking tennis ball.
Really?
Yes. It was that big.
Like its legs that reached that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Not the body that big. Jesus Christ. That would be arachnophobia. But that's a big, and they're furry. They look like tarantulas. They're hairy. Those spiders, I know they're cool. I know they're not going to hurt you and stuff, but they are scary as fuck. And I have to walk right by it. And I screamed so loud and jumped. My dog was like, what the fuck? He was like looking around for like an intruder. And so I went out in the woods, grabbed a big stick, knocked them off, and stomped the fuck out of every one of those spiders. Because I'm like, I can't have that mama around here. I will cry. I'm not going to be able to go back in my house.
Right, yeah.
I can't walk that close to that spider.
You just burn the house down at that point.
Yeah, I'll just get a new house. So
hold on, where did the mitt come into all of this?
That's where she laid all the eggs.
Oh, in the mitt.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Okay, I thought
I might have to burn the
point in the
mitt.
story you were gonna put the glove on and discover spiders in the glove.
Oh, Lord.
That would have been fucking terrifying.
But now I'm never going to be able to put that mitt on again.
Yeah,
I assume there's going to be the whole spider family in there.
Oh my gosh.
What if she was in the mitt when I was using it? The whole time.
I feel like you would have felt that.
I know. I feel like I would have too. Now I'm questioning it.
Are you Spider-Man?
I got spider powers. I'm just hairy now.
That's the only thing you picked up was the hairiness.
Yeah. The last thing I want to talk about,
Hold on, let me fucking go.
Okay,
Jesus
I thought
Christ.
you said you were done.
Oh no. I meant like I had just done a thing. Now it was your turn to go.
Okay, you go.
I want to talk about the trap of 3D printing.
Oh no!
Not like this is not me saying it's so hard. Woe is me. But okay, I'm gonna go to a friend hangout this weekend. We're gonna play Imperial Assault, and I want to pick up what's called the villain pack for that game, which like adds a mission to the campaign you can play. And so I was like, okay, I want to pick up some ISB infiltrators. If you don't know what the ISB are, they're like the police of the Empire in the Star Wars universe. And the pack costs $17, and the models are kind of meh, whatever. They're board game minis. You know how it is.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, you know what? I'm going to 3D print these instead. And I'm going to save me some money, and I'm going to get to use my 3D printer. And so I go and I find some awesome Skullforge miniatures. He has so many great STLs that could be used for like Dune, Mad Max, Star Wars. And I just love his like wargaming sculpting. I think it's really good. So I found he didn't have any infiltrators, but he had like a named character that looks like one. And so I picked him up because he's got the right head. And I picked up a couple of other dudes where I'm going to take his head. I'm going to put them on the unit of dudes, and they'll look great. And I just like printed some guys out, and maybe had a few problems with the print, and so I had to do it again. And like by the time I'm done with this, I have spent $15, not $17, and like 10 hours of fucking time to get it to work, and I still have to chop their heads off and put them on the other. And it's like, dude, I'm not saving me anything, I should have just bought the fucking pack, That's the trap of 3D printing. It feels like you're saving money and being productive, but really you're just wasting your time.
Yeah. Well, also you probably aren't factoring in the cost of the resin in that
No, I'm
$15.
not. I'm not. Yeah.
That shit is not cheap anymore. Like a lot of like the stuff that I buy is $50 a liter.
Dang. Okay. I mean, it was only a couple of figs. I don't know if it really amounts to a lot, but that probably bumps it up to at least $17.
You're at least paying the exact same amount.
So yeah, I'm paying to do more work. Now I will say the work is fun. I really do enjoy getting to mess around with this stuff, but it's just funny how that very often happens. It feels like I have this tool, I want to use it. It's going to save me time. It's going to be good for X, Y, Z, and then just ends up taking like significantly longer.
Yeah. That's not to say that you can't save money.
Oh no, yeah.
But like those smaller projects I feel much more fulfilled on as opposed to like, I'm going to print an entire Warhammer army or something. And like I recently went and judged a local 40K tournament. I judged their painting
what was this?
Armies on Parade a couple weeks ago. Cool. I did that. And one dude had an entirely 3D printed Nurgle army, and the quality of the prints was really solid. And the problem is sitting in a tournament with 16 players and one of them is 3D printed, and you're just like, that doesn't look nearly as good as the GW models.
No.
And it's not that they were bad models. It's not that they were poorly printed. They're just like, and it's apples to oranges in terms of just the quality of the sculpts and stuff. But
I feel like, do you think there are any third-party designs that could, like full models, not bits, that could integrate into a GW army and like you have a pretty extensive knowledge about what they make. But do you think any of those companies could like kind of?
There are some out there. There are some that actually, there's a guy in the Mordheim Facebook group that I follow that he makes stuff that they're kind of like, they're kind of multi-pose, but they're multi-piece kits that he's done ones for Skaven now, but he also did one for like, they're very traditional, like Mordheim, different human bands. I'm sorry if I don't remember what all their names are, but like it's very GW in aesthetic.
Yeah.
It's like he took that style and really just tried to replicate it with his own cool take on things.
Yeah.
If I use something like that, and I'm sure it's not unique, there's other people out there that do things similar, that really you're trying to make them feel like they're in that universe. You're not doing that because you think that the way GW makes models are the best. You're doing it because like they've tweaked and they've adjusted with technology and their own aesthetic for a way that looks really good on the tabletop, and it's enjoyable to paint.
So it is the best.
So it's kind of the best. Yeah, right. Right? Like, I mean, yeah, there's a lot of gobbledygook bullshit on a lot of Warhammer models, but there's a lot that aren't. And his designs actually aren't. They're just like, it's a lot harder, I think, to design a model that doesn't have a bunch of bullshit on it that looks really good.
Yeah, I think it is. Like, you have a lot less places to hide.
Yes,
for sure.
You have to be a much more purposeful in every curve and how every muscle works and like the movement and understanding anatomy and all that kind of stuff. You really need to know that to give the feeling of movement, feeling of weight. You know, this big giant ogre should be in a different kind of pose that it will feel more weighty than this tiny little goblin. Right. They don't feel the same. So I think it's totally possible. I think that we're at a point where, you know, there's enough talented people and people that are really learning ZBrush and stuff that are doing it.
Yeah.
But the vast majority, especially when you're looking at these mass Patreon put out a bunch of models every single month, that's what they're there to do is quantity. Mm-hmm. It's not as likely.
Yeah, and the other thing we're not discussing here is there is a style thing as well. You might have a person who does sculpts, but they just don't mesh up with the style of GW. Like Artisan Guild makes nice wargaming scale miniatures. They're just not the same style as GW, and so they wouldn't really fit very nicely. But there are, at the very least, some ex-GW sculptors who have gone on to do their own thing. I think his name's Ed Skomo with a K, Skomo, who had done a lot of stuff that looks just like GW figures that probably would work pretty well to integrate into the army. But
yeah, I think that was the biggest takeaway from judging at that tournament was it wasn't that his models looked worse. It wasn't that they weren't awesome looking models, because they were. They just felt out of place.
Yeah.
You know, it's kind of like bringing your War Machines models to a 40K tournament. It's not that they're bad models. They just feel like a different universe.
Yeah, or like their proportions are different. Like their heads are bigger in relation to their body, in relation to their hands. Like there's all these little things. Yeah, you have to kind of keep consistent, or as consistent as possible. Last thing for me, I'm just a Star Wars Disney slut right now, and I bought this game called Outer Rim, where you get to play as a bounty hunter / smuggler, and it is. There's a couple Star Wars games that actually get a lot of praise on Board Game Geek about being good. One of them is Star Wars Rebellion, which I haven't played or purchased. And the other is Outer Rim. And that game is so much fucking fun. I can't wait to play it more. It is so good.
Really?
Yeah, I played it twice now with a couple other friends. I played with Curtis, known Star Wars hater, and he was like, we need to play this again. Like it's so much fun. It's a kind of a game where there isn't a lot of antagonistic things you can do to the other players. You're both just trying to gain like infamy or fame by doing, by smuggling illicit materials, by claiming bounties. You can bring people in dead or alive. You can go discover planets and interact with like the people on those planets. You can do the Kessel Run and the Maelstrom. It's just like there are so many cool things you can do, and it's so much fun. Highly recommended if you're into Star Wars and you're looking for a new game.
Sounds a lot like the game I played a couple of times it was the Firefly.
Is that based on the TV show?
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, it's a similar thing where you're a smuggler ship.
Nice.
Like you're kind of doing your own thing. You can affect each other a bit with like some kind of world cards and that kind of stuff, or you can send the authorities kind of lead them over there.
Yeah,
but it's very minimal impact. It's more like you trying to play your game and figuring out what your strategy is. And it was fun. I enjoyed it. Very weighty game with all the expansions and all the things. It's overwhelming, but it was fun. Fun. So cool. My last thing is, so with the advent of Age of Sigmar 4th edition, this guy on the internet said that what he's going to do is he's going to paint the best Skaven army in the country or the world. I don't know which one he said. Doesn't matter. I don't really listen to what he says. But he's kind of up on this pillar talking about this all the time.
Who could this be?
And I happened to just drop into one of his videos, this Warhammer weekly show he puts out every Wednesday. And in the comment section, I said, this is I'm just giving you an advance congratulations on the second best Skaven army.
The shit talking has begun.
Oh yeah, this is a full on feud at this point. Like, this is an arms race.
This is war.
This is war. Look, Vince, he came back and he's talked about like, oh, he's painted all these armies and like he's done this so many times that and I don't even go to events and there's no way that I could come for the king.
You said all these things?
Oh yeah.
In the comment?
No, he came back in the next week's video.
Oh, wow, he called you out like in the video.
And let me tell you, Vincey.
Let me tell you what.
The cream rises. All right, and this is not a bear you want to poke. You've awoken a demon, all right? And you don't know the hurt that you set yourself upon. There is a track, and you have lost the ability to break on this track, my friend.
Watch out.
The future is grim, and it's unavoidable.
Is it dark as well?
Yes. I mean, it is the grim, dark future of your life, should you continue on this path. Now, a smart man would know when he's beaten and just try something else. I don't know if you're a smart man, Vince, but listen to me. There's no hope for you here. There's no chance at victory. There's only fear and defeat in your future.
How many armies have you painted, John?
I'm painted enough. I'm painted 3-4.
Somewhere in there. Yeah, no, you've painted the robot boys, the dark Batman boys,
Yep.
the skeleton boys,
Bony boys.
boner boys, and then what's the fourth one?
I have
Nurgle-ish.
actually. I mean, counting that one. Yeah, I've got. I think I have 2,000 points painted of Death Guard.
God damn.
And then my Legion Nagash / Soul Blight. If I count up all of my zombies, I have over 2,000 points. But I have about of a usable army about 1,500 points.
That's respectable. 5 is respectable. Okay.
This is.
I mean, it's not like 32.
Yeah, it's not like Vince who just throws them out there with a haphazard brush.
Okay, it's a quality versus quantity thing now.
Listen, Vince. This is not the thing is, Vince, that this is not a testament of quantity, right? Right. This is not going to be like at the end of the day when we're both dead, who has the most painted armies. It's when we're both dead, who's the best painted army.
Okay, just that one. You need that one.
One's all you need, baby.
Okay. All right. The gauntlet has been thrown right now. I will sit lying in wait as a spectator. I can't wait to see what happens. So what's the determining event?
I don't know if we're going to my goal is to buy VinceyCon in October to have my spearhead all painted.
Oh.
And then maybe we could have our spearhead forces fight at VinceyCon. But that's I think eventually, should he not do the smart move and just give up now, we'll probably have to go to a tournament, the same tournament, and have them compete in best painted army, and then let the judges let him down softly.
Can you enter into that kind of thing and not play in the tournament? Are there army judging painting competitions?
No, I don't know about that.
Okay.
I think you have to be in the tournament. That's fine. I'll curb stomp some noobs while I'm there. It's not a big deal. It's just oh, you also won the tournament, John. Yeah, don't worry about it. No big deal.
I don't need it. I don't need the trophy.
No, I'm not. I am not painting this army to be competitive.
You are. Don't fucking lie, dude. Are you kidding me, dude?
My thing is first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to paint the whole spearhead, which are not optimized units because there's no Giselles in there. I want to fucking snipe some boys from across the whole map.
Yeah, dude.
So I'm going to get that all done first. And rat ogres are not particularly good in the game. I don't think. I'm not an expert. But at that point, then I'm just going to start leaning into, all right, what is the list I'm going to run? And then start painting for that.
Okay.
And just hope to God it's not 120 clan rats. Because I'm not playing that list because I cannot paint 120 to this level.
You know what's great about list building in Age of Sigmar and making a deck in Magic is the design of the game space is so fucking huge that there are strategies that are known and you can pursue them and they're good, but they're so big that there's always this mystery that there's something left for someone else to discover, right?
Right.
Like I try out this new combination, this new deployment, this new character, this combination of things, and suddenly I'm the thing everyone's chasing. You know, I love that about games like this, is that there's always some possibility that someone hasn't discovered the next best thing.
Yeah. Oh, and also that is always a moving goalpost, because then a meta develops around what are the best things.
Yes.
And then that opens up this whole new design space for yourself on like what things really fuck with the things that are great.
Yes.
And then it on its own maybe isn't all that great, but it's a coin flip against the field, but against the top 3 or 4 lists, it's like a 75% win rate. And then you're like, oh baby, let's bring this horse to the show.
What kind of gamer are you? The kind of gamer that wants to discover new strategies, or do you like to optimize existing ones?
My history, and this goes back to all my early days in Magic, and I think why I fell in love with Magic was that I lived out in the country. I had Magic cards. My closest friend was like a half-mile bike ride away. That I would just sit, this is before the advent of the internet, where you could net deck shit, where you could just see what was working great that other people did. I just sit and I'd look at my cards and I try to find combinations. I try to brew, is the term used. And I brew my own thing, and that always gives me excitement. Or finding a card that is known to be good, or finding a unit or a hero model or aspect of the way they use magic or something in Age of Sigmar, and trying to like, this is running good. How do I turn it from good to amazing? That's what I'm trying to figure out, and that always feels so good.
Okay.
So that's what I'm gonna do.
All right. Sounds good. Let's get into what we painted. All right, John. What'd you paint up this week for me?
I got 2 more ratties.
All right.
I got 1 rat ogre. The plan was to paint 3 rat ogres, and then I quickly realized that they're fucking big.
They are big.
And so I only painted 1. I was not really excited about these models when they first showed them. But like so often in, I think especially in Warhammer, like the angle and the paint job that they do in the studio, the picture that they took, sometimes can sell it short how cool a model is when it's not in the hand, and you can turn it around or whatever, even before it's painted, to really get an idea of it. And I like the model a lot more. One of the reasons I really didn't like those models from their GW pictures is that the way that they painted the kind of exposed flesh and the fur were so closely painted, it just felt like a big brown turd. Like there was not definition of shapes and of the different textures and the different volumes and how they work together, because there's not a lot on that model outside of its flesh. He's just wearing a fucking skirt and he's got a robot arm. But other than that, he's a lot of flesh.
Dude's freaking Captain Hook over here with this arm.
Yeah. So I built up and painted the one that I like the pose the best. And yeah, I had a lot of fun. Then the fucking warpstone was just like it was kind of a happy accident.
Yeah, that's super bright and vibrant. I love how he has exhaust pipes on him.
Yeah.
Like he has some kind of like fumes he has to like give off.
Juices. I'm assuming that it's just warpstone juices flowing through him.
Juices. Yeah.
That's why I painted it green too.
Yeah, that part's great. Just the idea that a live creature needs exhaust pipes is hilarious.
Yeah, because they're kind of mutated and been pumped full of, I don't know, like gene seeds.
Oh, yeah.
I assume that's in the lore.
Yeah. You're nailing it right now. You're fucking killing it.
I got it. That's it. We got it figured out. So yeah, he's fun. He's a big boy. It got me a little bit more space to work with on the base to feel like a ruined cobblestone cityscape. Even though I didn't add a bunch of different stuff, although that's all 3D printed stuff. The little clay pot, I printed off a little clay pot on the back. That was fun. Paint that little terracotta.
I wonder at this point if you could play like Mordheim. Like, is this enough?
That's a good question.
I mean, I don't know if you'd want to, but it kind of that always kind of gives me a little amped. It's like if I have like a starting force for a thing already, it's okay. I'm like one step closer to like a finished army or a spearhead army. You know,
even like the clan rats are so unique in their personality and their loadout and their poses and stuff. Like you could probably go a long ways with just clan rats. I feel like I need to soon go down the tunnel of how to do a Mordheim warband, so then that might help me in decision making what models to paint.
Maybe, yeah.
I don't know. And then for my next video, I painted up the Gray Seer. So this is the first hero that I painted in the army, and the point of this is like, how can you spend more time, enjoy and push yourself a little bit more on a hero model for your army and still have it feel cohesive with the rest of the army, right? So I'm not going to put – I don't want him to look out of place, but I feel like you can go a long ways with the style and kind of the techniques that you used. If you're fairly consistent with those, you can just simply make them slightly more refined or spend a little bit more time on each step. And so that's kind of what I did with him.
Yeah. I mean, I see a lot of things that link the two together. The skin tone, this like desaturated blue color that's highlighted with like a yellowish kind of color. Mm-hmm. Like those things immediately make me feel like, and also the styling of the base does a huge amount of work for like making them feel cohesive. The turquoise verdigris on the copper, like all these elements do enough to make them feel like they belong together.
Yeah, and it's just like, where do you put the extra time? Because I don't want to put the extra time in every little thing, but I want to put the extra time in the couple other little things. So
yeah, I love the cream to brown to black horns. Was that like, did you do like a wet blend and then you did like highlights on top of that?
Yep.
Nice.
I did do a little, I think it was Seraphim Sepia thin down shade over the whole thing, so it kind of like makes that blend kind of an underlying cohesiveness to it, but it's not super apparent on the final painted version of the horns, but it just kind of gives you this kind of uniform kind of tint through the whole thing, so then you can build back up the highlights from there.
Okay, I'm reminded of a thing that you said that I wanted to ask a question about. You said the warp stone on the rat ogre was a happy accident. What do you mean by that?
So my plan was to use fluos with that, and it's not fluos. It's just... what I did was, it's a zenithal from above. I didn't touch the warp stone with any other paint while I was painting the other stuff. It's one of the last things I painted. And what I did was I just took a pure white paint and kind of overemphasized what the zenithal was already giving me, which surfaces were brighter, and then kind of edge highlighting in pure white all the angles on the thing. And then it's just one coat of a contrast paint.
What?
That's all that is. And I was like, I assumed that was going to be my foundation, and then it's going to come back in with white again, and then put a green fluo over the top. That was my thought. And then I looked at that, and I'm like, but this is kind of what I wanted it to look like when I was done anyway. It's called like Cairnglass Green, I think is the name of it. And it's from their second line, where they are a bit more vibrant, a bit more saturated, which is ironic because they already had a paint from their first range called like Warp Lightning Green.
Yeah.
And this stuff is just way better at it. Like, what does that need to exist?
That's so interesting.
It's one fucking coat.
I think the fact that like the faces of the gem aren't flat, but they're scalloped, like they're scooped out, gives a nice place for all that contrast to live. Because this actually transitions nicely into what I painted. Because I tried to use something like this, speed paints from Express Paints from Vallejo, and I really struggled.
Okay.
I painted Christopher Botley from my Greyjoy army. Thank you. I can't really see.
Yeah.
And on many parts of his clothing, I used an Express paint. And because it's fabric, there's a decent amount of flat detail that doesn't have, anywhere for a wash to settle. And I mean, you can't see it now because I've like painted over it, but like it sucked. It looked so fucking bad. Like it would just stain and accumulate awkwardly on surfaces. And that always happens to me. Like, not always, but like 80% of the time it happens. And so I'm like, I really struggle to find a use for it in my painting. But like for a warpstone gem like that makes so much sense. Because like the way it's detailed, the way you hide it beforehand, that makes so much sense. Like the fur, for instance, on his shoulders, that was an easy win.
Yep.
But like the other flat clothing, like I had to fix. That's a speed paint, about an hour and a half, 2 hours.
That's really, really nice for that amount of time. I think in that situation, I would probably just put it through an airbrush and shoot it from below, and then just use it as a shade, and you're kind of giving up a little bit on trying to get it to get in the few folds you have.
Sure.
But it's really just on his chest are those folds. Everywhere else, you're right. There's just not a good home for it. And if you can get it at the below angle, you can hit the underside of these faint folds. Mm-hmm. It's the kind of thing that I see like Squiddy do a lot to a really good effect. And you're basically more using it like a potent saturated tint or ink. But that you don't have to really mess with thinning too much. But
yeah,
I agree with you. You got a lot of flowing surfaces that it's just you're just asking for coffee staining.
Yeah, and that happened a lot. That was a model that I painted after I'd finished these 2 other projects that I also finished that had been just taking forever. And so this was an amazing mental reset, just to paint a thing super quick. And that guy is not drowning in detail. He's got a nice big face that's like super accessible. Nothing's blocking it. And so it's just a really good reset.
Yeah, and he looks great.
Thank you.
Yeah, I really like him. I saw you painting him on stream, and I was like, damn, that looks really good. You can just focus your time on making the shapes of the face look really, really well. And then you already have your color scheme established, and it's just kind of like pronouncing the shapes well, and the model looks great. You have the different tones of the blue. I think the biggest thing that really helps is going really light blue on the fur.
Yeah.
So you're breaking up lights and darks. You don't have any spots where a dark is touching a dark.
100%.
Other than like his pants and his boots, but like honestly, who fucking cares about the boots?
Right. No classic, fucking classic. But yeah, the furs are whites. The jerkin or the tunic thing is a little bit less bright blue, and it kind of gets darker and darker toward the bottom.
You're a jerkin.
Thank you. And then the other guys I finished was Red Vader is done. I mean, other than I scratch built a Darksaber for him, and then there was still styrene fuzzies on it, and so then I was like, fuck it, and I scraped them off, and that scraped the paint off with it as well. So I got to repaint the Darksaber, but that took like fucking 1 minute, so it wasn't a big deal. But basically, I think since you last saw him, it was the cloak that I painted. And so the cloak I painted, got one of those nice little Imperial decal on there, a decal. And I'm happy to be done with it. I don't know if it looks good. The technique I think is sound. There are elements that look good, but as like a whole paint scheme, like I don't think I would ever choose to do that. This is more of an experiment, I guess I should say. But it's done. I'm happy it's done.
You gotta do the little dot of white, the lens flares on his eyes, reflective.
Yeah, I tried to add that, and then I fucking washed over it with ink, and then I just dulled it down way too much.
It's gone.
Yeah,
disappeared. Yeah, this is actually like a really fun exercise, learning experience, and if I did this, I would be the exact same way as you. I'd get 50% done with it. I'm like, okay,
yeah, I want to be done now.
I want to be done now. I don't want to do this anymore.
Yeah. And sadly, that's also what happened with this razor wing. I've been working on it. I've been toiling. I've been dragging my feet as well. And I was just like, I gotta be done with this fucking thing. I mean, I can't. The base is haunting me. It's one of these experiences where you have an image in your head and then you try to create it, and it just doesn't look like what you thought it would look like. You had a really interesting idea that I didn't even think about, where it was the plane traveling under the sand wave and then going through it, which that could also look really cool. That's just not what I had thought about doing it. That like never entered my brain until you had said it, and I was like, "Oh, okay, that's a great idea too."
The whole time when we were like, when you first showed me the base and stuff, and I think it was even on a podcast. I don't know if the way you described it, I interpreted it the way I wanted it to, or I didn't ask and I assumed, but I thought, yes, it's at an angle where one wing is down and basically touching. That's your touch point to the inside of that C shape. And so it's like riding the wave at an angle. So it's like, it's not being touched by the wave. The wave is kind of like caressing over it, kind of like a surfer. So
that makes sense. Even with the surfer like comparison, I didn't think about that either. I think one of the critiques, cause I was stuck with this. And so I reached out to the boys, you and Sam and Vince and Benjamin. And I was like, I need help with this. I don't know what to do. And you gave me some good advice, and I incorporated some of that. And one thing that Vince said was that the base just feels too large in comparison to the Razor Wing. I had taken a picture of the ship in comparison to the base, not only further back than it was going to be, but also without the tailerons on. Mm-hmm. I felt like when I added those on and when it was in its appropriate area, it improved significantly. It felt larger. It felt more impressive. It felt like it kind of overshadowed the size of the base a little bit. Ultimately, I'm very happy with this as a centerpiece model for the Dark Eldar army. I think it's really fun, and I do want to make a second one. I want to make dueling jets. I think that'd be very cool, but not for a fucking while. I don't know if you want to hold it.
Yeah, this thing weigh like 6 pounds, or
it does, yeah.
Okay, I got it. Yeah, there's a lot of really cool stuff going on inside of there too.
Yeah, yeah. I love the rocket that's being shot.
Yeah.
Like having to mesh that with the underside of the ship was also a little bit like kind of hairy. That was probably something I should have thought about like before the thing was fully painted. Like, you know, when you do something for the first time, you like there are so many things that you're like, okay, this needs to be. I needed to do this in a different order, and it would have been way smarter. You just never know until like you try it and it messes up. Like one thing I also didn't think about is like I cut the sections of the wing off, right? And when you bend them, the gap in between them does not stay consistent, and so they, it's like I didn't think about that. Fuck. So like there's like a triangle gap in between the fins and shit. So I don't know.
I think it looks really cool. I like because they have some more movement to them now.
Yeah, I like the movement. Yeah,
it kind of shows that they're not the same on either side. Like that's what it's using to navigate through this. I really like that. And it looks like you have like these like little weld dots where you welded the things together.
So my idea for that was like, how do you attach these things? I made these hinges. They looked awful when I applied glue on them. They got all nasty and gnarly because the plastic melted and made them look rough. And I was like, okay, how do I what alien technology would they use? And it's like, okay, what if they were like giant magnetic balls and they're like move around and shift and they would like rotate with it, and that felt cool. Does the coolness of that idea translate to the execution? I'm not sure, but I like how it matches the chrome of the window. It's like kind of like those two colors are linked.
I like it. I think overall it works really well.
Thank you.
Yeah. The only thing would be like they look, because you have them chrome, they look like they're just a chrome BB that hasn't been painted.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I mean, that's the way they would look if they were chrome.
I guess so. Yeah.
So yeah, I thing is like I really love this rocket. My idea where it's kind of coming in like this, right? In this, this side with the rocket would be up, and you'd see it more.
Yeah. Yeah, I think maybe if I did that again, that rocket maybe should come out a little bit further. Yeah.
These are the kinds of things is like this. You should be proud of this. This is really freaking cool. And on a table, this is going to be freaking awesome.
I think so. Yeah.
But also learning stuff. You're
Absolutely.
Like, oh, there's little things that I would tweak, or it's like, oh, I never considered that, or blah blah. Oftentimes you have to go through the whole process.
Yeah.
To get those aha moments.
Yeah. I think the flames on the jet engines turned out really well for being hand sculpted. I'm not a hand sculptor or anything like that. I love the studs on top of like the Darklance bays and the chains and stuff. Some things worked out, some things didn't work out, and that's how it works. You learn stuff, and some stuff works, some stuff oh my god, some stuff doesn't. Goddamn.
And so now you got to edit all this shit for this. I'm assuming this is for a video.
Yeah, dude. Oh my god. I had to dump my SD cards 3 individual times.
Oh my god.
I have so much footage of this process. There's 3D printing, there's custom decals, custom stencils, there's airbrushing, there's enamel washing, there's acrylic painting, like there's kit bashing, obviously. So much shit went on in this video. So it's probably going to be like 50 minutes to an hour long, kind of like the Renegade Knight video. Very detailed, extensive conversion and paint job, which, admittedly, that video is my second most viewed video. So
hey,
hopefully it'll do well.
Yeah, I think so. I think you've got a lot of in-depth stuff. You don't want to rush through it in 20 minutes,
Yeah. And I'm not going to I won't belabor anything, but just so many different things happen, and I want to talk about most of them. Our sponsor this week is Infinity by Corvus Belli, and they're excited to show off their new Brigade Action Pack.
I believe it's pronounced a Corvus Belli. A Corvus Belli. Infinity is a skirmish game set in a high-tech sci-fi universe that focuses on special operations. Those of us in the know just call it Spec Ops. Games are designed to be quick, lethal, and risky.
The system is dynamic and allows each player an action or a level of participation that other skirmish games lack. In Infinity, it's kind of always your turn.
Most matches last only 3 rounds, with the objective being to crush your opponent. Other missions are available for free to download if you ever need something more than a nice deathmatch.
The Corvus Belli website is rich with substance as well. You can find the quick start rules, the full rules, FAQ, errata, other missions, background, and even a good army building app for web, iOS, and Android.
What? They have free rules that you can just get whenever you want, wherever you want?
What a novel idea. And also that list building app is actually good. I've used it, and it's pretty legit.
Infinity isn't just known for its access to the rules. Their miniatures are also very unique, highly detailed, and made of a high-quality metal. A lot of hobbyists have issues with metal models, but Corvus Bellies have some of the best. They practically fit together like Legos in our experience.
And there are a lot of them. Infinity is currently supporting 9 different factions, from Pan-Oceania, the greatest superpower in the human sphere, the Aleph, a single artificial intelligence that oversees the human sphere or combined army, an amalgamation of several alien races under the orders of an ancient supreme intellect with ambitions of dominance.
Infinity also has incredibly rich lore, which is always changing, and if you know anything about me, it's how much I love lore. Recently, the meta itself has shifted with the release of Endsong and the destruction of Concilium, and you can catch up on all of this in the free download called the Infinity Narrative Guide.
If you're going to get started right away in this game, we start taking a look at Infinity Code 1, a streamlined version of Infinity. Operation Blackwind, a 2-person starter set, is a great place to start. It comes with 14 miniatures from Hakislam and Aleph, dice, terrain, tokens, measuring tools, and the rules.
Or if those factions aren't to your taste, you can always pick up one of the amazing action packs. I picked up the JSA action pack because I love me some samurai robots and awesome ninjas on motorcycles wielding scythes.
The action packs contain everything anyone needs to get started in a specific faction, and the rules too. Pretty sweet deal.
A big thank you to Infinity by Corvus Belli for sponsoring today's podcast. You can find all the information about this awesome game down in the show notes or video description.
All right, today's topic are the 7 deadly sins of miniature painting, and which ones John and I have committed.
Yeah, so this was this is an original topic by one of our patrons. All right, the topic is by Stu Harris. Scott, can you read the topic?
Wait, what? Oh, we're doing that? Okay, hold on.
Yeah, I want to read his exact question.
All right, yeah, okay.
He paid $5 a month for this.
Okay, scratch all of that. All right, the actual question comes from Stu Harris, and this is what it says. The Tup Confessional, hobby bad advice, hobby bad habits you just can't break? Maybe you could get Vince sat on the other side of a screened booth forgiving you for your various sins. Okay, that'd be hilarious. He isn't here right now, but maybe he can, we'll confess to him in spirit.
Yeah, well, next time we're at VincyCon, we'll have Vince go in his closet, because he's got one of those closet doors that's got the slats on it, and then have a light shine in there.
Yeah,
and then he breathes heavily as we confess our sins.
Forgive me, Father, for I have sinned. All right, let's get into it. John structured this after the actual 7 deadly sins, and we gave definitions for each of them that match our hobby. So, getting us started here with the classic number 1, pride.
Yeah, so, I defined pride as the position in which the ego and the self are directly opposed to God. Now, we're not getting religious in our 7 deadly mini painting sins today, but every definition I could find of pride also had the word God. So that's what we have. Scott, pride is something that can get us in mini painting a little bit, You feel like you're better than you are. You feel like you deserve more than you've worked for. You kind of look at yourself greater than you are. This sounds like you, Scott. What?
True.
Have you committed any pride?
No.
In mini painting?
All right. The next one is, I mean, it's difficult with the hobby, right? Because pride is a thing people, experience anyways. But with a hobby, you have this thing that you're investing your creative energy into. And so just because you're doing that, you're overvaluing it, right?
Yeah.
So I feel like pride, the way it rears its ugly head in our hobby, is by people who ask for feedback and are just unwilling to hear it. And instead of actually wanting feedback, they just want acknowledgement. They just want to hear about the good things they did. And they can't hear the critique for what it is, an opportunity to improve. That's probably one small way that pride kind of gets into our hobby.
Yeah, in the research that I did, because I do a lot of research on this podcast.
I bet you fucking did.
In the research that I did on pride, interestingly enough, is known as the most devilish of sins. It is the father of all sins, because all things in some way or another apparently come from pride.
Dude, I love this devil lore, dude.
Right, yeah. Hubris and ego are often associated with this. And ego is something that I think is valuable. So this is kind of a fine line one. A lot of them are more cut and dry, our 7 other sins.
Sure.
But pride is kind of the trickiest one. So we're starting off on a hard spot.
I thought of another prideful thing, maybe.
Okay, let's hear it.
Because you said ego. I hate it when gamers blame the results of games on dice rolls.
Oh, baby.
Sure, it can happen. You can have terrible games. It does impact. That fucking terrified me.
I thought it was going to be the Vince saying sure.
I thought there was a fire alarm going on in my head. I was just like,
everyone driving to work just swerved off the road.
Yeah, you just killed at least 3 people.
I'm sorry. I thought it was Vince saying sure. I hit the sure button.
Oh yeah,
it's not on here.
Yes, remember the old SD card, the lock thing broke off of it.
Oh no.
And that has the sound effects on it, so I can't use it anymore. It doesn't matter. Anyways, yes, so I feel like ego definitely gets in the way of people being able to understand that they're playing a game poorly and they're making mistakes, and it contributes to them losing. And also, it might contribute to their opinion of a game. I'm not above this either. People might lose at a game and just say game sucks. I'm not good at it. I didn't do well at it. Therefore, it isn't fun. So that is another way that kind of ego and pride can kind of impact our opinion of stuff.
Yeah, it's tough with pride because I feel like there is a healthy level. It's a good thing to have, and the ego is a good thing to have up to a point. And knowing when you kind of are unable to see the forest through the trees through your own level of pride or ego is where things start to get hairy.
Yeah.
And let it be known that we're going to be guilty of a lot of the sins we talk of today.
Absolutely.
I certainly, I think the part that I can confess most to with this is more on the content creation side.
Sure.
So I will often feel like this was a great video. This should have done better.
Oh, absolutely.
It should have gotten more views. More people should like this video. And I have it on the other side too, where it's just like, I feel like this is not my greatest video. I don't feel like I did an awesome job, and I'm looking at the final product being self-critical, and it does better. And then that kind of like swings my ego the other way, where it's like, well, I didn't even try that hard, and that video did well, so I must be awesome.
That was a great voice.
Yeah, it was like a halfway to Billy Bob Thornton and Sling Blade. Have you seen Sling Blade?
I haven't, but I love Billy Bob Thornton.
Put it on the list.
Okay.
I ain't got no reason to kill nobody.
Sling Blade?
Yeah, one word, Sling Blade.
Such an epic name. Fucking Sling Blade.
You got any of them French fried taters?
Are these all quotes from this movie?
Yeah, that's Billy Bob Thornton. That's his voice.
Sling Blade. It's directed by Billy Bob.
Yeah.
I did not know that.
Some people call it Some people call it a Kaiser blade. I call it a sling blade.
There's an actor in this movie. His name is Dwight Yoakam.
Dwight Yoakam?
Yeah, Dwight Yoakam.
He's a famous country singer.
Is he? Oh, is he? Oh, cool.
Yeah.
I like his name a lot.
Tears of a Clown? Come on.
Wow. Okay, 3.9 on Letterboxd. Not bad.
It's a fucking banger.
All right.
Dude, I'm going to get you all the great movies of the late 80s, early 90s.
It's on here. Okay, I actually confused Billy Bob with another guy who's got a big, beautiful mustache and looks very similar to Billy Bob. What? Okay, we can't sit here and think about this guy's name. All right, anyways, I got Sling Blade on the list. We're good. We're moving on.
Oh, yeah. Speaking of pride, Sling Blade. It really is a movie about sins.
Okay.
Like Seven. You ever watch that movie Seven?
No, I've never seen Seven. Okay, I've seen it. It's beautiful.
It's a fucking thing of beauty.
Dude, Seven and Fight Club were the movies that taught me that, I'm into movies. And then movies can like be really awesome and engaging and impactful and have like a message. That's when I was like, okay, I should take these more seriously.
Yeah, don't look in the box. That was the message of that movie.
Yeah, that was the fucking message for sure. All right, on to greed, which we define as, or rather Wikipedia defines as, inordinate desire to acquire or possess more than one needs, especially with respect to material wealth. Does that resonate with any of our viewers?
I don't feel like miniature painting hobby and the sin of greed have anything to do with each other.
Yeah. The desire to acquire more than one needs.
Yeah, that's the biggest phrase. That's what I read all the paragraphs, the thing that really stood out to me it
Yeah.
wasn't like having stuff. It was more than you need.
Yeah.
And so there's a little bit of potential crossover to future sins we're going to talk about, but I think there's some specific stuff with greed. And the one I'm so guilty of is in relation to miniature paints. So I have a lot of sets. I have plenty of cream colors, but there's a new miniature paint line out, and they had some cool looking cream colors. I'll buy the whole thing. I don't need any of those colors. I have paints from other brands that work well. I like those brands. They have all the colors. Why do I need more? Because I'm a sinner.
Ultimately, that is the truth. I think it, like, this is gonna be a thing that comes up a little bit later as well, but I think it makes us feel like we're progressing, right?
Yeah.
When we acquire things, we are getting better at our hobby. Our potential rises to, our skill and all that stuff. So it kind of just feels that way.
I think that is probably the bloodline across most or all of our miniature painting sins is you're finding other ways. Typically, they're a shortcut to God's graces. Instead of just giving the church all your money. That's what we've learned, what you should all be doing. Just give the church all your money. And by the church, I mean our Patreon.
You will go to mini painting purgatory unless you are a sprue or sprue head.
But yeah, it's like you're trying to fast track yourself instead of putting in the effort and the blood, sweat, and tears and the commitment. But a lot of that joy and happiness comes from those things. And we're just like trying to find the quick fix to that. And greed is a big one. It's like saying more things will make me better faster. More things will make me more efficient. More things will make me be able to paint at a competition level. More things will allow my army that I'm going to start painting to actually get completed this time. And you're just greed by acquisition is a big thing. And I'm very guilty of that.
I feel like it also especially gets hooks into you. Like when you don't totally know what you're doing. Like for me in 3D printing, like I just buy so many. I've had periods where I buy so many things for that hobby, just in an attempt to make it easier for me, right? Like a belt warmer for like the vat, like a certain kind of funnel, certain kinds of gloves, electronic lazy Susan, and a fan, so I can put the model in front of it and it can dry after I've cleaned it in my what's that thing that vibrates?
Ultrasonic cleaner.
My ultrasonic heated cleaner, like I'm not good at that. So it's like I don't have the wisdom to know I don't need all of this shit. I just need like half of it to do what I want to do. And so you kind of just buy because you don't know really what you need. You don't have an understanding of what's actually required yet.
Yeah, and it's not listed here, I think probably purposefully, that ignorance is not a sin.
Sure.
And I think that, I'm learning so much about the universe right now. Ignorance isn't a sin, and yet oftentimes for many of these sins, ignorance is kind of our side door to become a sinner.
Yeah, I feel like people aren't ever intentionally prideful, right? Like,
right.
You're not doing that, to be known as that. It's kind of like it's a byproduct of other things that cause you to be prideful, and ignorance could definitely be one of those.
Yeah, it's a not a conscious decision. You're not consciously saying, "Oh, I'm better. My ego is bigger. I deserve more." Blah blah. You don't consciously think that, but your actions and the way that you kind of approach things will show that. And I think part of the defining the sins for all of us today is for us to do a little introspective, looking at ourselves and to say like, oh man, am I kind of doing that? Is that healthy? Is that something that's going to actually be beneficial for my hobby? Or is it actually going to end up like crumbling my moral foundations as a painter?
Yeah. I think maybe it's important to as best as we can, delineate between like good types of pride and bad types of pride, or if it ever breaks down that way with any of these individual sins. But I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing to be proud of a paint job, you know?
No.
I think if it gets in the way of you being able to hear feedback, if you want feedback, then it's a problem. But like if you finish a big thing, like this big jet I just finished, I'm happy with it, you know? I definitely understand it has problems, and I can learn from those things 100%. But I'm happy with the outcome. I'm happy it's done. I'm happy that I put the energy into doing it. There's a lot of things you can feel pride over, and I don't think it's bad as long as it doesn't get in the way.
Yeah, again, pride is one of the tricky ones because actually the term, whether it's change in definition over generations or whatever, isn't inherently a bad thing. Like when I read the word sloth, I'm like, God damn, that's got to be bad stuff. But pride is not necessarily it. That's why it's the gray zone sin. We started off with the trickiest one.
The gray zone sin.
Now, for greed, you also wrote down gas, like tooting too much. Is that what that means?
Yeah. That's something that you struggle with. Yeah, classic gear acquisition syndrome. You mentioned paint sets. That's a classic one that everyone loves to collect. There's also airbrushes. I own 7 or 8 airbrushes. That's ridiculous. I will say I've gotten at least half of them for free. But still, I have them. I haven't gotten rid of them. Why haven't I gotten rid of them? All kinds of stuff. Like paint brushes is a huge one. Like I mentioned, 3D printing gear is a big one. Like light equipment can be a big one too. People always want to get great lights, and they can cost a lot. Like there's so much stuff. There's so much stuff. Like even like I said airbrushes. There's compressors. There's cups to mix your stuff in. There's filters to pour the paint through into your airbrush. There's airbrush cleaning solution. There's needle oil juice. There's endless shit that you can buy for everything in the hobby.
Yeah. I think I maybe put the amount of paints in the wrong category.
I think you might have, yeah.
Yes. That's a different one. We'll get to the.
I mean, it's related.
It's related though. But gear acquisition syndrome, I think specifically for greed, it's not about as much about the quantity. This is how I define it. It's not about the quantity of a certain thing. Of like, I have 300 paints. I don't need to buy 300 more. But it's more of the buying all sorts of things to make your life easier when you can already do those things fairly efficiently otherwise.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll fully admit that the wow stick, which is an electric drill,
I know it.
is kind of greed because it's like,
is it?
I have a pin vise that uses the exact same bits. It works the same way. It's just this other way is easier.
And it's faster.
It's faster. It's easier. How much so? I mean, it is, if you're having to pin a bunch of stuff or drill a bunch of barrels out, it is definitely better. And it's maybe a bad example because that one is like a really, really good product. But I think oftentimes what I'm guilty of is occasionally I'll find those diamond in the roughs. I'll find those wow sticks. And then I just keep buying other things thinking that they're going to be as good as that thing is.
Yeah. Okay. So you're not buying multiple wow sticks. You're just buying things that cover an area that you already have covered by a different tool, hoping that it's going to make it easier, make it faster, whatever it is.
Yeah. Like I bought this thing that's like it's also battery powered and it has a little sanding disc on the end and you can replace the sanding disc and it rotates. It's just like a little hand sander, but it's miniature. And so you can go like, and you can like, in theory, I was like, oh man, this could just do like mold lines and sprue lines or whatever, just really fast and stuff. It's not any better or faster or as efficient at getting that job done. I just bought more stuff when the way that sometimes it's a learning process, but it's like I buy more things to try to streamline when, there's no indicator of me that it will actually work. I'm just going on hope that spending money will make all these things, acquiring all these things will make it better. And I have giant tubs full of shit that I just don't use because I bought them thinking they would be better or they would be useful, and they are not.
Okay. So it's like a little palm sander attached to a pen? Is that what it is? Or
no, it is shaped much like the wow stick and has a long metal rod that you can put different ends on it, including you could put a drill bit end on it. But the reason I bought it was from the little sanding disc, and it's about the size of it's about smaller than the diameter of like an eraser.
Oh, wow.
And they're like little pads. So they have a squishy element like the sanding sticks do, but it's circular. And then on the end is just like a sanding disc.
Okay.
And so you can replace those. And I was like, oh, man.
That's fun.
Run. And I can just run it across.
The greed's getting me. I kind of want it now.
I know. I know. I'll let you have it, and then you be the greedy one.
Now, you always give me your shit you don't want. This office is John's dumping ground. He's like, hey, you want this sick thing that I don't need anymore?
Yeah, trust me, it's awesome. That's why I'm giving it to you.
All right, moving on to the type of daily sins, we have wrath. A little bit of a harder one to relate to the hobby, but there are some correlations.
All right, so wrath is defined as an uncontrolled feeling of anger, rage, or even hatred. Wrath often reveals itself in the wish to seek revenge. Let's talk about gaming, boys.
Yeah, that's definitely an example. It's like, I don't know if it ever really comes down to vengeance or true rage, but it is really hard for me to quell those feelings of anger over, I feel like I got the shaft, like the luck isn't on my side. My opponent is abusing a strategy that is OP and not caring about like my enjoyment of the game or trying to create a balanced experience, but all they care about is winning. Like those feelings come up so often, and it's like so hard to make them go away. It's like an impulse of mine, and that definitely kind of could relate to some form of wrath.
Yeah, again, this is I think oftentimes the side door to sinning is lack of understanding or information, ignorance, where it's like, oh, if I understood the rules and I understood how their models worked and what they're good at and what they're trying to achieve or whatever, then I'd have a keener understanding. And then even if it happened in the same outcome, I would be able to understand that it's like, oh, okay. But if you go in blind and then you just get angry over the game for the results or how things happened, and it just puts you in a bad mood and it makes you not enjoy the process, not a good person to play against. It's like you're doing this for fun. This is what you're spending your free time on doing. Sometimes it's hard, and I'm very guilty of it. In the moment, you just get worked up or you get frustrated or you get angry about the thing that you're doing strictly for entertainment and joy. Like, it's so guilty. It's so easy to be guilty of wrath, at least. And I think there is a personality thing, and maybe this is just like some people are sinners and some people aren't. It's like I think some people are just, or they've recognized it and they're not at that point in their journey in their life now, and they've grown beyond it. They've ascended.
Oh, there's a chance for us.
So there's a chance for us to redeem ourselves, and I find too, it's harder. I find myself seeping into the realm of wrath more often when I'm playing against someone that is also has the devil's tendrils in them. Oh, yeah. And I see it like building in them, and it's just like, oh, that fuel's mine. And like, it is like it's just a stew of bad juju that you find yourself in.
I wonder if wrath could also apply to, or like the feelings of rage of entering into a competition of painting and not winning. Like you feel like you've some injustice has been served to you. There is anger toward the judges for like inaccurately judging the competition and picking someone like less worthy than you and stuff like that. Would that also apply here?
Yeah, I think there's a pride and wrath love connection right there. Where and I've felt that. I know there's a lot of talks, especially around Gold Demon, about the judging, what are they even looking at? They're so wrong on this. What are they even judging? What are they valuing? And this, that, and the other. And it's easy for something that you're very committed to and you spent so much and you're so invested in to get that bubbling up of things don't go the way that you were hoping.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not going to lie. I have literally been by the Golden Demon cases and witnessed what I would call actual rage over decisions being made about mini painting competitions, like actual yelling.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, some people, it's hard, it's hard.
I think a big part of the value of the actual hobbying side, the model building and painting and all that, the value of that is it's actually inherently pretty removed from wrath. I think it's a naturally pretty
Yes.
relaxing. It's a more low stress. It is working in the moment. It is just kind of enjoying the process, and there's not this level of that to come through. But when you're doing it for competition and it's all building up to that moment, and that just like it's uncontrollable moment of frustration and anger, that's where it shows itself. But most of the hobbying side, that's why we kind of more focus on the gaming side for Wrath, is kind of inherently, it puts you out of that space. So if you're a person that maybe gets more that way in the gaming side, you should focus a little bit more of your hobby on the side that, can kind of put you in a better mind space.
A little bit of zen. Also, speaking of vengeance, we all know that giant company that made that giant game that decided it was time to die, and just threw a bunch of gamers out into the ocean. You know how I'm talking about Steamforged Games and Guild Ball.
Oh, man.
No, obviously, also, but both Games Workshop and Fantasy. There's that guy who burned his Daughters of Cain army. That is an act of vengeance.
Bro, you just M. Night Shyamalan.
I know. I fucking got all you fools.
Fucking got me.
But also, so Guild Ball did the community dirty in their eyes. And then they came back, and guess what? The community still doesn't like you. Like, they're still very upset with how it was treated. There are definitely, like, notes of vengeance there. But yeah, dude, come on. Burning your whole fucking army in protest of a new system coming out? Like that, fucking settle down, brother.
The things that we care about the most are the things that create the biggest swings in emotional reactions in our lives.
Sure.
And the people that get so worked up over changes, whether it was even with this newest Age of Sigmar 4th edition, they're getting rid of all these units, all these models. I can't even play my army anymore or whatever. It's like you're so passionate. And that passion is good. And that passion is connection to a thing that you really enjoy doing. But by and large, people don't actively make decisions for a thing that they're trying to sell for profit that is going to make their customer base mad. And sometimes you have to cut off your nose to spite your face, like you have to say, we have to quell some of this, and that's not going to make people happy, but it's for the betterment of our game. We want it to be a better game. And it's easy to just get filled with wrath over that. And so, and I don't necessarily blame people in the moment, but just understand it's an emotional reaction, and take a deep breath and maybe look at the bigger picture and either decide that game is not for you. And if that's going to cause you to be in such a negative mental state around it, find something that brings you more joy instead.
This is now turning into therapy with John.
Yeah. My rate is $79 an hour.
That's pretty good. All right, on to the next one. Envy, sad or resentful, covetousness toward the traits or possessions of someone else.
I covet thee. All thine powers shall be mine.
I think this is probably my bet for the most sinned sin of all the sins.
Oh, like worldwide.
For not just for a minute.
Top leaderboard.
Top of the leaderboard. Show me envy. That's going to be number one, in my opinion, for hobbyists. And because it's a tricky one. It's one that if you don't necessarily feel guilty about, even if you recognize, or it's easiest to seep in. It's the most
seeping.
Yeah, it can be amorphous. It can fit into any crack or crevice to get a little envy in your life. The popular one is because this one isn't typically one of animosity, and that's why where most of us can be guilty of it. It's more of one of feelings of sadness or lethargy or despondence to others.
Those are just some fucking, what do you call them? 10-cent words?
Yeah, nickel per syllable. That you can have that feeling, and those kinds of kind of more woe is me feelings aren't often associated with being, doing something negative in a sin, whatever term. It's, oh, they're better than me, I'll never be that good, or oh, you're just more talented, or you're more artistic, and I'm just not, and I just am, I don't know how you ever got that way. I could never do that. You're a sinner. Don't say that. Don't think that.
Is that envy?
It's envy.
Okay.
Yeah.
So-
Envy is not always just like you're the maniacal fucking golem being like, I wants it. I mean, it can be that, but more often I think envy is really more of putting yourself down while looking what others have achieved.
That seems like a reaction, a what is it called? A defense mechanism against envy, right? Like you're trying to just concede, like, okay, fine. I'm not good. I wish I was good, but I'm not, and I'm gonna state it out loud so I feel better about not being good. Is that kind of what it is?
Yeah, I don't think it is deflecting from getting envious. I think that is envy. I think you are just actively taking a passive aggressive route to it.
Okay. See, now we're getting deep into the Midwestern lore right now.
Right.
So I see what you're saying. Yeah.
Right. And you're actively demeaning the hard work and time of others by just putting it all on yourself and saying, "Oh, I'm never going to be like that," or whatever. And it's an example of like, well, if instead of being negative and pulling that on yourself, you can either decide, "Hey, I just am content and enjoy and I'm happy with where I am," or I want to be better. I am not putting myself down for this. I need to put in the work or the research and the hours and the everything to get better. Those are some positive options that wouldn't be with envy. And instead of just putting something out of your own reach and demeaning yourself and saying every one of those people that you look up to was at the same position that you are at some point. And they got to where they were, and they look up to other people just like you look up to them. And the difference is they got further steps up the ladder, however you define the ladder, by not being demeaning to themselves, but pushing themselves and saying, I'd like to get better. And the joy of growing is part of their journey. And that's a positive thing, instead of just saying, I'm not going to be that good. I'm not going to do it.
You shared a YouTube example about how it relates to one of the previous sins. I have an example for envy for this one that I commit regularly. The hobby is an interesting YouTube subject because it involves an incredible amount of creative input, and then a video has to be made about that creativity. And I am endlessly jealous of popular streamers who upload a VOD of their stream and get more views than my video that I have spent, 200 hours on, 100 hours on, whatever it is, like total, with the creation and the edit as well, and the writing and everything, and the shooting of B-roll and stuff. And I try so hard because I'm a try hard, of course. And it makes me, feel very invested in the outcome of that thing. And then to see someone who I perceive, that's very important, who I perceive as not trying as hard as me, doing like orders of magnitude better than me, like a XQC or Ninja. I put out a VOD and it would get like 1 million views. And it's like, bro, what the fuck? The world is not fair.
These people's reruns are doing better than my video.
It feels so bad. I'm so envious of what seems like such a low effort thing getting way more recognition on the platform that I am supposed to be well versed in. There are so many emotions swirling in this pot of sin right here. But yeah, I struggle with that a lot. But I think an important thing to remember for me is that often with live productions, a lot of the effort to make them entertaining goes in beforehand. You're planning to make them special, right? And there are all sorts of things people are doing that they're putting effort into their content, whether it's like a fancy UI, it's special events that are happening during the stream, it's them being good at the game, which require them to put hours into it, There's so much more going on than what I observe as a person. And so I have to just tell myself that to not commit that sin every single day. But I really struggle with that.
Yeah, I feel that in the things that I watch. I watch a fair bit of magic content.
Yeah.
And over the last couple of years, it's really taken off in terms of popularity on YouTube, And it's exactly that. So I watch drafts. So people do their drafts on Magic Arena or Magic Online, and it's an hour-long video of them from their Twitch stream doing the draft and playing out their draft. And it's like, 30, 40,000 views in a couple of days, and they can put out 3-4 of those videos a day.
Damn.
And I'm just like,
day.
yeah. I mean, because it takes an hour, and all you do is then upload it. They're not edited. They're not anything or whatever. And it's a different, it's a different thing than hobby.
Oh, for sure, yeah.
But I'm still just kind of like, God damn it, I wish I could just stream a video game for an hour of me painting a model and then just slap it up there. But it's a different animal. I mean, and I feel like I'm guilty of seeing people that directly in our hobby that create content that they put out a ton of content. It's not a lot of editing work, and it does really well. And I've come around where it's like I am happy that we're in an area that is successful enough that people of all different types and different kinds of content that people like to watch, can be successful, because the water level rises for all of us, and it rises for all the goody peepees out there, because you have more options and more unique takes and personalities and approaches to making videos or doing streams, that you get to find the things that connect with you the most. And that's awesome for all of us. I have to remind myself of that, because I get envious of being like, fuck, I wish I could sit on my chair and just blab for 20 minutes and then just hit fucking go live and throw it out there and it would get that many views. But like, I'm like, I don't know if that would work for me.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's just different people are good at different things and that kind of thing. So.
Yeah. I think there's this other thing that's really difficult about social media, where I tend to look at my Instagram feed as one person, right?
Okay.
And so I'm looking through my Instagram feed. I'm just like, man, so many people are doing so many things. They're painting display models. They're painting whole armies. They're getting these cool opportunities with businesses that I want to work with. And it's like, the internet is so productive. I'll never compare. And it's like, of course, like, what I don't notice is if I go and look at, Ben comments his Instagram, he hasn't posted a new model in 2 months. That was a thing he was working on,
Yeah.
And if I look at, someone else's thing, that was the thing they were working on. And all together, it's just a fucking assault of productivity and creativity and like movement in our industry. And it's like, I wish I could do all of those things. And it's like, oh, I had that idea to do that and I never did it. And now someone else did it. And I feel like it's not my idea anymore. And like, that I feel very envious about too, wanting those opportunities, wanting to be able to output as fast as these people, when in reality, it's just everyone at the same time,
Yeah, you just see that glorious sausage on the grill. You didn't see all the work that was done to make that sausage.
Yeah.
And it's so easy with social media, because you're just able to be bombarded from all angles of awesome final product.
Yes.
Yes. And that is so overwhelming. It is so overwhelming, and that kind of leads to the connection from envy to our next sin, which is lust, which is an unbridled desire for things such as money or power, an intense longing, and sexy times.
Mm-hmm.
This is the Slanesh one. I think some of the chaos gods are designed around some of the sins, because like gluttony is Nurgle, lust is Slanesh, wrath is Korn, and
I might say that gluttony is also Slanesh, like excess. I think slothfulness is definitely Nurgle.
Yeah. What is Tzeentch? Greed? Pride?
Maybe. I don't know. Maybe some of those the
Which
heady
one
ones.
is most like a turkey?
A magic turkey.
Yeah. I just imagine those things from what's that fucking Jim Henson movie?
Dark
Crystal.
Thank you. I couldn't think of the second word.
The turkey people in Dark Crystal.
Yeah.
Were like, that's what all of Tzeentch was stolen from.
This one, you guys know.
Lust.
You've bought pinups before. I fucking see you. That's lust. Okay, feel bad.
Dude, Kingdom Death's whole business model
It's built on geek lust.
is built on your enjoyment of boobies and butts. Or thongs for dudes. Those are also things
Dude
that
thongs.
we're lusty for. And I got one of those bust, like a bust model, not boobies. Pinups. It was like of a dude from Kingdom Death, and it's like they're equal opportunity.
Is he packing?
Oh yeah, I can see the wrinkles.
Oh God, that's not okay, Poots. You've gone too far. Now you've gone too far. Yeah, I know.
Well, yeah, that was the line.
Yeah.
Not fucking dick monster.
Yeah, the Forge God. Oh, I forgot about that one. No, we're joking. We're joking. Pinups have a really interesting part of the hobby, and I almost don't know how to think about them. Like I've been on one side of the fence, the other side of the fence. I don't know, but that's not where we're gonna go with lust today. We put down here in a bullet point the desire for recognition as a first thing. You know, kind of lusting after being known as something in the hobby.
Yeah, and that is like, I want everyone to shower me with praise.
Sure.
I want everyone to say I'm awesome. I want everyone to, to say wow and look at all, and I want to get all the awards. That's it, and it's interesting because again, it's such a fine line of I want to work hard and have that be recognized, and that's different than just wanting it without the effort. And I think it is that fine line of like a lot of us when and I'm guilty of this as well, of like I want recognition, but where's the fine line of saying I'm deserving of it versus someone else that has also put up so many hours and committed so much of their life to their work? It's a tricky one. I think where you're getting into demeaning others for your place should have been higher in other people's eyes is where lust is really starting to get a little funky.
Yeah. I'm going to throw an idea out there, and I'm curious what you think of it. I think any amount of desire for recognition is bad. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I'm not saying you shouldn't, but I could see that.
I feel like the whole point of a creative pursuit is the enjoyment of the pursuit, is doing the thing, and then enjoying it for what it is. I think if any part of you is like, I hope I get recognized for this, I feel like maybe that might be problematic. I'm trying to think of examples right now in my head. It's like, okay, like going to the Oscars, for instance, that's recognition on like a global stage for excelling in making a movie. Is that bad? Is it bad to want to win an Oscar, to want to win a Golden Demon? That's recognition, right? Is that a bad thing?
I think,
I don't know.
Here's my thought of where it's not bad.
Okay.
If your desire for recognition is fuel for you putting in the work and trying your hardest, trying something new, going beyond what you've ever gone before, if that's part of the fuel that gets you to where you've grown as a painter, you've improved as a painter, then I don't view that as lust.
But then what happens? Well, I guess, yeah, whether or not it's lust, I'm not sure. But is it a good thing? What happens when you don't then get that recognition?
I think that, that's a good point. I think that some level of recognition will happen.
Yes. And that's good. And it feels good.
Yes.
Yeah, it's okay to feel good about that, I think.
It's when you feel undermined by the amount that you got is where lust creeps in for you.
Sure.
Instead of being grateful for the recognition you did get and being grateful for the growth that you've experienced because of that process.
Yeah. That could definitely allow you to like get less recognition than you deserve and still get value out of it. Still being able to see that improvement for what it is and stuff like that. Absolutely. It's an interesting thought. Like, I don't know if any amount of it is okay, some of it is okay. I'm curious what your thoughts are, Goody Peeps. Let us know in the comments below.
Yeah. Do you feel that there's some level of using that as a driver for you to grow? I mean, here's why I think that, because I've used that. Like I've used that. Maybe this makes me a sinner. Every time that
I got news for you, John. You already are a sinner.
Every time that I've competed for a Golden Demon, it's kind of like It's all right. It's the same thing in sports ball, right?
Yeah.
It's like where the guys in the locker room, they put up a quote from a newspaper, or they say they don't believe in us. They think we're down and out. They think we're worthless. They think that we're not deserving to be on the field. They use that as a drive to try harder in practice, to get better, to outwork the opponent on the field of play. They use that as we're not recognized as being good. They think we're not good. And you're using that as fuel for your fire for you to do what you need to do to compete. And if the way I approach like Golden Demon is I built this whole storyline in my own head. Is like, oh, people just think I'm a YouTube painter and that I'm not as good as these pro painters and that I'm not deserving of winning a Golden Demon, that I'm not good enough, and that I'm going to use that fuel of not being recognized as a great painter to fuel me to try harder, to put in more hours, to really redefine things that are pretty well painted, to make them better and to not settle. And that I use that to drive me to get better, to get that recognition, to win a Golden Demon. And there's a line in there where lust was crossed, but I feel like 75% of that was helpful for me in the way I approached things.
It's interesting to think about the idea of winning something being a form of recognition. Like obviously with like an Oscar or a Golden Demon, it absolutely is. But like with a game with teams of people, it feels less about recognition for some reason in my brain. But the connection of those things you just mentioned are very, very interesting to me. So let's do a little retrospective.
Okay.
You've competed in Golden Demon three times. Did you have that strategy or a version of that strategy every single time?
No, not the first time.
Okay.
The second and the third time.
So that's actually great for science. How did you feel after each instance? Obviously you won, which is amazing. And at that point, was the prior years of potential suffering, I don't know if you were suffering, was it worth it? Or like, did you regret that strategy at all, or elements of that strategy?
I felt like each year I changed, and this wasn't like a conscious strategy where I went down and made bullet points of like,
I know.
Yeah, but like how I approached it and the things that I shed and the things that I took on, I think it evolved year over year, and that got me, like, it improved my painting, most importantly, and how the outcome was each time. I felt like I learned from that. And the big jump from year one to year two was year one was like, oh, I was trying hard. I had this kind of cool idea, but really going into the unknown, I'm just going to do my best or whatever. And seeing the cases of Golden Demon for the first time and seeing the things that won and comparing myself and getting feedback and all of that allowed me to realize that, like, I feel like it's possible for me if I can hit the right gear. And so I changed my approach to rev up my RPMs more. And that required me to go to a spot where I had to get more kind of like tenacious in how I approached it, in approaching it in a way of like, I can't rest on my laurels. I know that if 50 hours of me painting a model and 50 hours of Benihana painting a model, his is going to be way better than mine. But what I can do is I can put in the work and I can put in the hours and I can commit myself to start in August and not start in December. And I can give myself leeway to improve with the sheer amount of effort I'm putting in. And then if I do that, I have a chance. And what I didn't expect, but shouldn't surprise me, this is the same for every single one of you out there, is by going through the process, you will get better. You will be able to achieve a certain level of outcome quicker the next time because you've committed yourself to the project. And that was the good takeaway. The big takeaway was also that, like, me trying to have this lust for saying I'm not just a YouTube painter, that actually wasn't the valuable thing. And that was me putting it in my own head and wasn't probably a positive way to approach it.
Okay.
So I learned that.
Okay. Awesome. I think it's a really unique opportunity to get to like look back on that and think about how that like really panned out, and if that was like a thing you would do a second time around. I mean, again, you're not consciously doing it, but it's still interesting to think about.
Mm-hmm. For sure.
Okay.
What's our next one?
Well, actually, there's one more element of lust.
Okay.
That was desire to be part of a group within the hobby. Like that adds value to you as like an individual in the hobby when you're part of like a clan or something like that. I don't know if much more needs to be said about that. The next one is gluttony. The dictionary definition or something like that is indulgence and overconsumption to the point of waste.
Yeah, that's the key part.
Yes.
To the point of waste. Listen, if you can eat 5 cans of SpaghettiOs in one sitting and you don't waste any of them, then that's not gluttonous. You just love SpaghettiOs.
I think that's literally gluttony.
I mean,
What was that guy eating in 7? Wasn't he dead in a plate of spaghetti?
it was like canned spaghetti. It was like SpaghettiOs, but like actual
Did you do that on purpose?
Maybe it was subconsciously in my brain. The movie 7. It was face down in the SpaghettiOs with his hands tied behind his back. And
his legs tied to the table chairs.
Yeah.
With barbed wire.
Yeah. I mean,
that movie's fucked up.
All right, let me put an asterisk on that. I'm not saying you should eat 5 cans of SpaghettiOs in one sitting. But if you are have a very active workout regimen where you burn so many calories that you need that in order for you to, regain the caloric intake that you took, then yes, that's not gluttonous. But if you sit around and play video games and work in a sedentary job, you shouldn't eat 5 cans of SpaghettiOs in one day because you're going to lead to an early grave.
The SpaghettiOs here are a metaphor for just food in general. Okay?
Yeah.
Let me just help you out here.
Right, yeah. For sure. Okay, so yeah, to the point of waste. And this is where I think that my paint collector thing was it's to the point of waste in that I'm not using all those paints. I can't possibly go through all those paints. I don't actively choose this paint over the other tan, over the other tan, over the other tan. I don't need all those tans. I'm wasting those. Basically, I wasted my money by not using the things that I'm buying. So I think the paint collector, the difference here is like it is quantity of a thing that all falls under the same bucket.
Right.
Whereas the gear acquisition syndrome and greed is more of the sheer one-offs that you have that you don't need.
Right.
That maybe that's how my brain is defining the difference.
Yeah. I think the other huge thing with gluttony here is I think FOMO plays a big role in people just buying so many miniatures they don't need. Even with paint, Kickstarters come out. You don't know when that paint's going to come back and be available, so you want to buy it. You don't want to miss out on that. But
it's also the cheapest price you're ever going to get it. And will my local store carry it? Or what will shipping costs be if I have don't get
add-ons? There's stretch goals. Yeah,
free shit, Bubba. We get
dude.
Free shit.
I need that fucking sticker, dude. I need it.
I need that sticker. The thing is, these companies set up the way that they do business.
You putting the blame right now on someone else?
To feed off of that.
To feed?
They know it's a dial that we each have. It's like near a butthole, right?
Yeah.
If you turn the dial.
It's right on the inside of the cheek.
Yeah, you got to get up in there, right? And you got to turn that dial. And if we turn it enough, then you're going to feel like, I must buy this new box of Sisters of Battle because it's the fancy art battle box that it's a limited run. And if I don't buy it, then that's the only way I'm going to get the special edition codex.
Mm-hmm.
And if I don't have the special edition codex with the gold trim on the sides of all the pages, what's the point of living?
The dial has turned up to 11 now with that last part.
Yeah, that is gluttony. That is like,
you don't need to keep buying these extra kits and kits and kits of stuff you're never going to actually put together. I think, that's definitely another one. That's like paint.
Trust us, because we're not guilty of this at all.
Definitely not.
So you should listen to us and say, you don't need this.
Yeah. I don't have lockers full of miniatures that I will likely never paint.
I didn't have like an entire room in my downstairs filled with drying boxes of unbuilt miniatures that got wet because they were in my fucking studio everywhere.
I think you should do a video where you just catalog it all.
Catalog all of my models?
Yeah.
I did a video a couple of years ago. It was like my pile of shame, and that was a rough experience for me to realize. And it has not gotten smaller since then.
All right, yeah, maybe not.
No, I mean, I could even like go through like, because sometimes you just like, it's really good to like paint a fun display model, 54, 75 bust or whatever, because oftentimes those are the ones that I collect that I don't paint as much. So I went through all of those things that I own and then just find the thing that really excites me when I'm going through them. I would probably be smart.
Yeah, I actually find that is true. Like, I will forget that I own things.
Yes.
And then I'll see them. I'll be like, oh my God, I love this thing. I kept it for a reason then, and I'm just now rediscovering it. And I'm like, I get re-excited about it, the fact that I have it. That is definitely a first world problem. But I'm not trying to just hold on to stuff. I just kind of forget that I have it.
I mean, they come in such, the gaming models come in such awesome looking boxes now too, that it's just like you keep all the boxes to remind yourself of the cool models that are in there, even though you've not opened it or you've built 2 of them or whatever. And then so you're like, oh yeah, there's a visual reminder. Yeah, okay, good. I have some squigs. Should I ever need some squigs? Because they're in that box over there. And they all stack up on a shelf really nice because they're all the same dimensions. And I can put all those size boxes right next to each other and they look better together. And it's like,
you don't have to go to a store. There's a store in your closet.
Yeah, there's always
It looks
models.
like it.
There's always models.
Yeah. I mean, that's a good point. I do have storage for just sprues that aren't in boxes, and that shit I always forget about.
Yeah, that may as well not exist.
Yeah, that's where models go to die.
That is where like I've gone through and I clipped off sprues and I've condensed sprues and I put stuff in bits boxes and whatever, and then I put those sprues in these nice little cubes like our buddy Darren Latham does. And he's got this wonderful little cube filled with sprues, and I'm like, Darren, ain't no one ever gonna remember whatever's in there. You don't know what's in there.
He hands it out like candy when you visit.
Yeah, it's like trick-or-treating at Darren's house. You get to go get a sprue. It's like he could fucking hand out them at
Halloween
time.
He's handing out sprues.
I always imagine, because in America, it's, Warhammer's growing. It's bigger than it was even, 5 years ago. But I just, like, in my head, I'm sure this isn't reality. I just assume everywhere in England, like, everyone knows about that, and you could just give out Warhammer sprues for Halloween, and all the kids would know what it was and be really excited.
Yeah, I think actually the government is petitioning to put the GW logo on their flag, actually.
Right.
It's that intrinsic to, like, their country.
Yeah, there was, like, they were considering not allowing Charles to become the king. They were just going to have the emperor.
Yeah, mankind,
the emperor of England.
Yeah, okay. Like, what if we actually turn England into like a Space Marine chapter?
Like, that is actually a part of the lore that I'd suddenly be interested in. It's like, oh shit, this is coming real.
I mean, I don't know if I'd be too excited about that.
I mean, come on.
It's pretty dark stuff, okay?
What, this is really serious?
Yeah. Have you read it? It gets dark.
Trust us. These guys got bigger guns than those guys, and it makes a lot of people die.
They're also not good guys, okay?
No, they're not even
Distinctly
good
not.
guys.
Everyone's a bad guy. Okay.
In a world.
We got any more gluttony things? Are we on to the last sin?
Listen, we're all gluttonous. If you're listening to this podcast, there's a 95% chance that you are gluttonous in this hobby.
Sinner!
You need to repent your sins. And how you do that is you spend more money on more hobby stuff.
Particularly our Patreon, which you can find at patreon.com/craftunderplastic.
Yeah. If you look at it this way, it's $5 a month you're not being a glutton in, because you're not buying more shit
We're
you don't
holding on to that money for you interest-free with no expectation of giving it back. Okay?
need. Nothing.
It's just so you don't buy more models, okay?
Yeah, exactly.
All right, on to sloth, the absence of interest or habitual disinclination to exertion. Wow, I love those 5-cent words, 10-cent words, whatever they're called.
This is the one that I think is probably the worst sin.
The worst.
Yeah, of all the hobby sins, this is one that's common, and it's the one that you should be fearful of taking part in.
I think a lot of them fly under the radar. I think sins often do, but maybe this one flies the lowest.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
That's why it's the most dangerous.
Right. So I guess there's the obvious slothfulness of just not painting,
Yeah,
not progressing, but it goes deeper than that.
Yeah, it's not the act of not painting that makes you a sinner. Because
I love how we get to decide this.
let's say you got 3 kids at home and you got a spouse and you got a full-time job and you got to mow the lawn and you got to pay the taxes and you got to fix the water heater when it breaks and you got all these things.
Pump.
You got to fix that sump pump. You got to walk your dogs. You got to live an active lifestyle where you get some exercise. You got to make healthy dinners. You got to this is a busy life, John. I am not painting. Does that make me a sinner? Nope, it doesn't. What does make you a sinner is you spend 3 hours of your hobby time, instead of painting models, you're scrolling through other people's awesome looking models on Instagram and you're watching the whole web of all the things related to the hobby on the YouTubers, and you're doing things like listening to this. Wait, no, you can listen to this podcast while you're hobbying. Look at you're twofers. You're doing all these hobby adjacent things. And a bit of that gives you the level of endorphins to feel like you're being active in a hobby and you're engaged in your hobby. And just like all things, in moderation, that's good. But when you're actually using that to supplement or to circumvent actually doing something, actually feeling productive and accomplishing things within your hobby, that's when you're a sinner.
What are some examples of slothful activities? I'll give one. I think stripping your minis is like a slothful thing. It's like you try to do something creative, you immediately give up. And I'm going to do this thing that I know it doesn't take any artistry. I'm just going to dunk my models in simple green. And now I can't paint them now. They're stripping. All right. I'm actively in the hobby. I'm doing things, but I'm making no progress. I think stripping is a big one.
Yeah. I think, relating it to other sins, if I'm just like, instead of actually working on the models of the army or whatever, I'm online shopping and or figuring out what my next army should be and all that kind of stuff. And instead of taking advantage of all the opportunity I have with the cool models I already have and the paints I already have, the brushes I already have, all these things I have, that instead of sitting down and actually spending time doing the thing that was the whole purpose of all of this, instead I'm distracting myself with things that don't require as much active engagement in the hobby.
What about spoons?
Yeah, what if instead I make sure that I find the exact perfect color shifting paint by painting as many spoons and little army men as possible? Bro, the world's a little army man. You still got to paint it. Everything's ducks, dude. They're all ducks. You know what? This little duck is just a baby duck. That big, beautiful mallard, that's also a duck. You know what? You got to paint all them damn ducks. Paint them now.
I'm trying to think about this from the perspective of someone who's just listening to our podcast for the very first time, just hearing that absolute breakdown. Like, we went from spoons to ducks, and it's like, what the fuck? Yeah, a lot of inside commentary. But, yes, painting spoons. I always have a bone to pick with this. Experimenting with products on spoons. Just fucking paint the model, bro. You'll discover if you like it or not. And then you also learn how to paint better at the same time, you know? People just paint spoons. They have spoon collections, okay? You're not going to win a gold team with a fucking spoon.
You're not gonna play a game of 40K with your spoons.
Your fucking vintage spoon collection, bro. It's like, I love that, dude.
All right, my spoon marines. I've got a unit of spoontercessors.
Oh my gosh! I now want to see someone like make an army all out of different types of spoons.
All right, yeah, I have one. Okay, they're currently in a drop pod, but the spoon gressers are going to come down on turn 3. Yeah. Right? They're
Spooninators.
Right? Yeah. And actually, there's actually a unit inside of this Spoono that's going to transport them.
The Rhino, the Spoono.
It's going to transport them into the battle of the spoons. They landed on Normandy Spoon Beach.
What's a Land Raider Crusader? A Land Spader Sprue Raider? I don't got it. This is going off the rails.
Yeah, that's the one that's got it's got like the thing on the front that kind of looks like a bulldozer thing with the spikes, and that could be, so that would make it the
spork.
The spork raider.
Sporkator. Oh my god, I love that.
Yeah. Not only the painting of the spoons, but then You go out to the internet and you make a 7-paragraph post on Reddit with pictures of your fucking spoons.
Yeah.
This is a color examination of this spoons, the yellows of these different colors.
Hey, I think I've definitely done that at least once. Not with spoons, but with like squares of styrene. Probably, I've definitely done that before.
Listen, there is value in learning through other people's experiences and
Research as well.
gaining that research. And they've done some tests on things, and they're like, the coverage of the yellows in this paint range are shitty, and here's showing some reasons why and whatever. And that is awesome, and I appreciate those people. And that is, that is value.
But when it's the majority of what you do, when it's equal to the amount of mini painting you do, it's a problem.
Yeah, or that like doing that whole research and the R&D for the masses, and you're putting that out so others don't have to, so you can find some outcomes. Like, there's value, and that is then your hobby. And then spoon painting can be a part of that. But if you're not saying my hobby is painting spoons, you're saying my hobby is painting Warhammer, but you're painting spoons too much, maybe paint the models.
You're a sinner.
You're a sinner. You're a dirty, dirty poon spanking sinner. You poon spainter. Wait, that sounds like a totally different hobby. Spoon painter. Just to clarify.
Yeah. You gotta just paint minis at some point, You have to, educate yourself with some stuff online and books in person, and then go and actually use it.
Is there a thing that related to sloth that you're guilty of, Scott? Because you obviously don't paint spoons, so there's got to be something else.
Do you have something in mind? Is that what you're asking me?
No, I don't have a specific thing, but I phrased it in such a way that it was an obvious thing you're guilty of, and now you feel like a sinner, and you're trying to figure out what obvious sin.
I know. It's like, what am I? I'm like, with this razor wing, like, I just didn't finish it forever because I was like, it was in a state of like, I'm unconvinced with this end result or what I can imagine this end result to be. So I'm just not going to work on it because it sucks, Is that slothfulness? It's kind of being like, kind of, I don't know. I don't even know how to describe that more.
I don't think it's slothfulness if you're redirecting your motivation, your desire, what excites you in the hobby to something else. Okay. I think that's a healthy approach to keep you, active and engaged and productive and accomplishing things.
Okay.
That's okay. That is more than okay. You shouldn't feel guilty about a thing like losing the wind in your sails on it.
Okay.
Just find where that wind is elsewhere.
Okay, I like that. It's eastward now.
I find I do a bunch of hobby adjacent shit oftentimes that is just a wasting time that I'm here to paint, and I'm just like,
if I reorganize the paints on my shelves to a more productive manner.
I've done that like 3 or 4 times where I'm like, actually, these ones are closest to me in my painting spot, but I don't use them as much as those paints over there. I should rearrange all these paints so the ones that I use most are closest to me.
Okay, all right. I don't know why I didn't think of it in that context. You know what's interesting? I don't think of you as that kind of person. I think of you as like a productivity adult machine.
Yeah, I try to be. But I'm guilty as much as the next person.
Yeah, I'm definitely, I do that as well. I can't think of a hobby example that happened in the recent past, but like I said, when Ollie and Kara, Sierra, okay, I said all 3, okay? Now we'll just put in whatever one in the edit actually is right. No, I'm just kidding. When they were coming over, I felt the need to do the most ridiculous shit to clean up the office, and then I would just go down this rabbit trail of doing like things like fixing cable management. It's like no one gives a shit about that. I often get caught in situations like that where I'm doing needless work just because it's busy and it feels good to accomplish something, but it's not what I actually need to be doing.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah. I have the kind of a brain where if a thing is, I recognize a thing, that's the thing. Oh, I need to do that, or I'd like to do that. Where there are many things in my life that if I don't do them right when I recognize them, I just won't do it. Yeah. It'll go to some area of my brain that I never need to access because it's not vital. And so I'll do that sometimes with my hobby. And it's like, oh, shoot, that's right. I was going to rearrange where all of my mediums and my paint thinner and my lacquer thinner and my mineral spirits, how I was going to set them up. It was going to be in a different way. So I'm going to do that right now.
Yeah.
Or I will never do it. And so sometimes I'm like, I'm not actually down here doing the fun painting stuff that I should be doing.
You know, I do that when the thing I should be doing is like an unknown, or like I don't have like an answer, or it appears to be a black box. It's like I'm just going to do a thing that's easy and comfortable that I don't have to think about and that has a known solution. I'm just going to do that because I'm trying to avoid having to make a decision on something.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's why I think we often get ourselves in a situation of sloth in our hobby, especially when you're in the beginner to intermediate levels of painting, which, you know, a lot of us are in, where a lot of it is unknown. A lot of it is like, I don't know exactly where to begin or how to approach this or what colors to use or, you know, anything. It's easier to fall in the loop of doing hobby adjacent things instead of just sitting down and painting, because you kind of are in this level of being overwhelmed of where to begin or what to do next. And that's where I think you're most susceptible to sloth. You know, if you're to the point where it's like, okay, I've got my sea legs under me as a painter, I can jump into a project. Maybe I'm going to hit a hurdle or two, or I may feel overwhelmed at some point. But the entry point into any model is not like, oh no, I'm going to screw it up for my base coats kind of a level, you know?
Yeah.
I picked the wrong color at the very beginning. I'm going to fuck up this whole paint job. Yeah. So I need to know all the answers before I pick up my paintbrush kind of a thing.
Yeah, yeah.
I think that's a big part of it is not action.
Inaction due to inexperience, really. Not knowing how to go from step A to step B. Okay, now that I'm here, how do I problem solve my way to, you know, where I want to be? Absolutely, yeah.
I think you're just understanding that you're never going to have all the answers. You're never going to have it all figured out before you pick up the paintbrush. So you just need to pick it up and enjoy the ride, and don't let that stress set you out so much. Then you will find yourself avoiding the dangers of sloth.
There it is. And with that, we've gone over all of the 7 deadly sins of miniature painting. Which was your favorite? Mine's lust.
Yeah. You know, I actually, when I was writing them all down, I was like, oh man, I don't know. Some of these we're not going to have anything for. Like lust, we're not going to have anything for lust. And I come to figure out, like, that's a big one. It's a big one.
Yeah.
Like wrath. I like wrath.
You like I like wrath.
Like I'm a wrath guy.
Yeah.
You know, because like I can feel like, you know, I can pat myself on the back while I'm doing all my hobbying and stuff. And I'm so far away from wrath. Next time I play my first game of fucking Spearhead or Age of Sigmar 4th Edition, Wrath is going to just like crawl out from a fucking volcano under the gaming table. And he's like, remember me?
I might not invite you to my my tournament here, John.
No, that's a whole new leaf, John. Now, this is it.
Fucking right.
Yeah, dude, John is all about just like, whatever, I'm not. You know how I avoid Wrath in Magic and Commander? I avoid Wrath entirely in Magic and Commander because what I end up doing is I just play decks. I build decks. I'm in the fucking workshop with a bubbling cauldron of what I'm brewing. And all my decks tend to do is they tend to send the wrath to my opponents.
Okay.
And then they're just like, they're not happy. Some of my friends they're like, oh, cool, whatever, blah, blah, blah. Some of my friends, they cannot handle it well. And then I'm just like, oh, I've just sent wrath into the world. I'm spreading it out to others, and I don't ever feel it.
You're just purging it off yourself, giving it to others. I thought what you were going to say is how you avoid wrath is just by never losing.
That's also part of it, yes. Yes, right. Yeah, so what happens is, like, I kind of am like Satan, where it's like, he's always so fucking cool and calm and not worked up at all. And it's like, when he shows up, then everyone else loses their shit, right? And so I think that's the way to be the best sinner, is to not do any sins. You just show up and everyone else becomes a sinner.
Okay. Wow. That got to a really dark place. John is Satan.
Hail Satan.
Hail Santa. Okay, that is it. Let us know your thoughts on the 7 deadly sins, and we're going to get into a special part of the podcast that maybe you're not paying for. It's called the After Party, and you can get access to it. It's about 20 to 30 minutes extra content if you are a patron. You can find that linked in the description below. Welcome to the After Party.
We're here. We made it. We made it through the sea of sin. Like we went across with the ferry, the ferry that goes over the river Styx.
Yes. Do you remember the Greek god who brings you over the ferry?
His name is it's on the tip of my tongue.
Frank.
No.
His name is Steve.
Steve the ferryman.
I actually forgot his name too. He's a boss you can fight in Hades, but I can't remember his name at the moment.
Yeah, he's pretty cool because he wears a big old robe, like a big bathrobe with a hood on it, and he's got the oar. It's gonna bother me. It's when we're driving to lunch. I'll remember it. Okay. But yes, we took you across the river with us, avoiding all sin and all the dead painters below in the waters.
Is it Charon? Charon?
That might be in one. That's not the
Roman or the Greek one?
Yeah, I don't think that's the Greek one, but I think that sounds right in one of the others.
In Virgil's epic poem, Aeneid, the dead who could not pay the fee and those who received no funeral rites had to wander near the shores of the Styx. Yeah, and Charon would take you over. That's
Karen.
God damn it, Karen!
It's so funny. So he pulls up. Pulls up with the boat and pulls the hood back.
He's got a short haircut.
A short lady haircut.
Yeah. I want to speak with your fucking manager.
Yeah.
What? I'm dead.
No. And then it's just like all the dead people just on the surface of the water. They're like, oh, it's Karen. We got to be next to her for eternity.
Oh, God, that is truly perfect.
This is what happens in the after party. Listen, we
get into Greek mythology.
We get into the real heavy hitters of the sinning. Now we're going to talk about the real sins of miniature painting.
I got nothing.
Listen.
Listen.
I touch uncured resin.
Okay. Oh, you didn't mention that for slothfulness.
Yeah, laziness. I don't follow the procedures. I've licked resin.
Have not.
I accidentally licked resin again this week.
What the fuck?
Because my buddy Justin was over to put my 4090 in my computer in my new 4 terabyte solid state drive.
Why did you buy a 4090? Did you feel like your computer was lacking?
It actually has shown itself to be very, very worthy when I'm when I'm processing proxy media and when I'm scrubbing through footage.
Right.
It's a beast. Yeah, we had some issues, but anyway, he was over there and he gabs while he does IT stuff and pulling apart my system, and it just makes me have a slight like heart arrhythmia because I'm just like, I don't understand these things. I know how to like pull out the thing and put in the thing, but I'm just always assuming that there's something much more complex and convoluted that's involved in this, and it kind of isn't. But like him restarting the computer and testing and making sure everything was working correctly, and him like back-ending into my server and looking at gobbledygook on a screen, and I'm like, okay, I believe you. So I had a print going of like a bunch more basing bits because that is what I print. I print basing bits, and I somehow was talking to him, not paying attention, and dealing with the print bed and stuff. And I had got resin on something, and I must have touched it. I had one glove hand. I was being a good boy, but then somehow the other hand, I didn't put a glove on. And later on, I was eating a cheese curd like 3 hours later, and that cheese curd tasted like resin. There was just some little time, because it doesn't take much to get on your hands and doesn't even feel it. You don't know it. And I was just like, oh, that was resin. And so I went and had to wash my hands some more.
As a principle, I just always wash my hands after I'm done dealing with any resin, even if I wear gloves.
That's why I never, ever get sick, because I never wash my hands.
Okay.
I'm just eating all the microbiomes of my surroundings at all times.
And the cancerous chemicals as well.
Yeah, as well. Sometimes you get it like there's a yin and the yang.
Yeah. You can't have one and not the other.
Right? That's it. So I do that. I lick my paintbrush.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Although I've found in recent years that like the benefits I thought I was getting of like doing feathering and using my mouth as a tool, I find like they're not as helpful to me as they used to be.
Sure.
I've just naturally progressed to other ways that I found that I don't, I find that nowadays I'm less of a sinner, and the most 90% of the time, the reason the paintbrush is in my mouth is to get the tip right.
Yeah. I also find that when I am speed painting, I just like regress to like my natural state of painting. I'm not thinking about what I'm doing. I'm just like eating paint. And it's like, it's almost like I don't want to call it like a nervous habit, but it is absolutely a habit that I've like formed. And I just do out of comfort. Like I don't even know if I need to do it if I like really thought about it. Anyways, this is not what we talk about in the next part. Let's talk about our favorite mini. I got one from hagenpinxit. You've seen this guy's conversions.
Oh yeah,
I fucking love. And if you look at the post right before this one, you'll see the one with the putty and the bits and the conversion. I cannot get enough of this dude's stuff. I freaking love it. They all look so cool and so pompous and so hoity-toity and so like Empire, Warhammer Fantasy Battle. It's so freaking good. I love it. He's pulling up his sleeve, dude. Yeah. He's got that powder face with the fake blush and the beauty mole and the fucking eyeshadow. Like, dude, he is so hoity-toity. I love
the face makeup and the painted on eyebrows are what make these dudes so great.
I know, yeah. It's so good. And the big fucking wig.
Yeah.
I love it. I love this stuff. I wish I could do this kind of stuff.
I mean, you can.
Well, like these kinds of conversions. I can definitely paint this way.
You just have envy. You're being sinful.
Yes. Fuck. No.
There is a non-sinning reaction to this of appreciation of this, and that is what we're doing. We are not being sinners.
Mm-hmm.
We are being appreciative of amazing works of art, and this is I love this kind of thing because they're always they feel kind of Mordheim-y too, though it seems like.
Absolutely.
You know,
hold on. If you look at the non-painted version, is this face from the new like human race for Age of Sigmar?
Yeah, it looks like it's one of the new cities of Sigmar.
Is that what it is? Okay.
Yeah.
It's the guy who's painted with black skin tone, right?
Yes.
Okay, interesting.
One of those. It's very definitive. The key part of that piece is one of the new cities of Sigmar. It's like the battle medic where he's pulling up one sleeve with the other. That's the key bit that's used here. It's that whole figure. I think that's the only thing used from that figure. It's not even the weapon he's holding because he's using a bone saw. But he's like that figure, and he's like pulling up one of his gloves with the other. And God, that's so freaking cool.
That is cool.
It's like you took like a $25 model for his fucking gloves.
Yeah. Anyways,
that's a level of commitment, appreciation, and commitment. I want to look closely at like how he made these bases. It's like putty, and he just made them.
Putty or is it styrene?
I thought it was styrene at first, but I don't think it is.
Okay.
You can see at the side of the front cobblestone a little bit of a fingerprint indentation.
Oh, see, I thought that was filing marks.
No, I think that's.
But yeah, that might be.
I've been doing a lot of stuff with basing lately with my epoxy sculpt, and that's exactly the kind of things I have on my base from fingerprints. But yeah. So you can get some irregularity, and it's kind of like chopping them. I always find that when I roll shit out like that, and so it's slightly irregular to chop out. There's not like a perfect cure time when to do that. If it's not cured enough, it's too sloppy, and you don't get enough of a definitive shapes for stones. If it's cured too much, it just like cracks and splinters and breaks, and you can't get the exactitude that you want.
But wouldn't that look good if it was like splintering and breaking?
It looks too much like, not like it's actual 2-scale stone. It looks like you just broke off little. I don't know. It doesn't look good to me.
Okay.
It doesn't look good to me in my head as I'm trying to perform it.
Okay, sure. I've like seen people like, I know when you have milliput and you let it dry, it gets to a certain level of hardness. But then if you go and you bake that shit, it gets even harder. And it does these really cool things when you break it. I know a very long time ago when I was painting that elf who stood on the bridge with like a tree behind her, I made the stones on the bridge by doing that. I formed it to the curve of the bridge that I made. And then it dried, and then it's like a little U shape. And then I baked it, and then I broke all those pieces, and then they kind of went back together, like with seams in them, and they look like slate rock. I could have just used slate rock, because that looks good enough, anyways. But I don't know if that's the same look as this though. This doesn't look like, it's kind of like cobblestones, you know. I wasn't doing cobblestones. I was doing something else.
I love me some medieval cobblestones, and there's another trick to this too, where I'm thinking it's not fully cured is. Look at how it's the edge around the base is cut to the circular shape. You can't easily do that when it's fully cured. That super hard version you're talking about, even the non-baked, fully whatever, you even glue those down to get the shape so you get the nice, cool, cobblestone-y feel on the inside of the base. But around that edge, you can't just smoothly cut that like that, where it looks like it was not fully cured when he cut that.
Okay.
There's probably a very obvious, simple explanation how that's done, and I just have not figured it out.
We're going to place a bet right now? I think it's styrene. I don't think it's putty.
Man, styrene would make a lot more sense.
Should we bet?
Okay, you going to ask him?
I feel like I always lose the bets, and I feel like I never pay up on them.
Yeah, I bet it's not styrene. I just don't know the easy answer of it.
Okay, so the bet is I think it's styrene. You think it's anything else?
I think it is epoxy sculpt.
Okay.
It's that color of epoxy sculpt.
Okay.
But why is he's used these other kinds of clays, but he didn't use them there? Maybe you're right. Maybe it's styrene. It's irregular in shape, though. A styrene wouldn't be irregular like that.
Yeah. So I know the yellow putty is Tamiya Quick Type.
Ooh.
Okay, that doesn't help us, but that is I never knew what it was. But now I know. Reading the comments. Nothing. Looking like nothing. Nope. Rip. Okay. I guess we'll never know. I won. If you win, then you won. All right. Okay. That was my favorite one. What do you got?
Mine is davidarrobaminiatures, and this is actually an older one he just recently shared.
Ooh.
All right. So this is a Nurgle model that has got some specific changes he's done to it. To the model that I really like, but the real, as much as the slight tweaks in the kit bashing and the adding of the extra nurgling and that kind of thing are valuable, but it's just he did such a great job of painting Nurgle dirty yet refined is the best way I can describe it, where it's dirty but it's not sloppy.
Yeah,
absolutely. It's unclean but it's not messy. It's just and that is not easy to pull off. And I just really I like it. I like how he did the green helmet and shoulder pad where he's got these almost up to these dots of a vibrant yellow, right? But they read as green. It's very a nurgly, kind of warm green. That works really well.
I love the bits of green in the skin tone, on the horns right next to the helmet.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of really subtle greens on it. And of course, it's David Roba, so it's painted fucking beautifully.
Yeah, the really, the goober that's coming out of his mouth is most of it's painted very dark, but it's got this ding shine of where it meets his lip and the bottom of the drool.
He has the 3 Nurgle balls on his shield, and they're painted in a dark steel NMM and not a bright one like the shoulder spike is. And I like that. That's something that I've always... There are a few things in this hobby that I just haven't really fully explored yet, and that's one of them. OSL is another one. So whenever I see something that like that, if I see an El Miniaturista OSL paint job, I'm like, God fucking damn. I always appreciate things like that I don't know how to do very well, and that's kind of a little detail right there.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah, I saw this and I was like, oh, I really like this. It just makes me happy.
Yeah, absolutely.
Sometimes you just see something that makes you happy and you give it a heart.
I think, absolutely. I think another thing that contributes to the overall nasty feeling is if you were speed painting this, one thing you might skimp on is he's got boils, he has skin lesions, he has literal maggots coming out of his stomach, and you could just keep a lot of that all is just a skin tone color, but he didn't. He painted the boils yellow. He painted the lesions red. He painted the maggots a sickly off-white yellow. And so he's paying attention to all those details, and seeing them makes the thing feel more disgusting while also just making the paint job better. So
yeah,
works.
I think one thing that really makes this work, that this is a higher level paint job, and it's actually having a white background. It's harder to recognize this, but how bright he gets on the chest skin color is so bright. And so it's not even that it's pale. It's just a very, very vibrant skin tone. And that level of contrast of boosting the brightness level very purposefully in very specific areas just levels up the model so well. And it's the kind of thing, if any of us sit down and just try to paint this model from gray, I think 95% of us do not go bright enough on specific things. And that's something he does so well.
Yeah, I agree. Little spots of bright, like not even like a spot. It's like a zone on the model almost.
Zone. Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's like around, there's a circle of that zone that goes from his green shoulder pad up to his helmet and then around that chest. That zone, there's boom, boom, boom in those 3 areas done so well. And it just draws your eye there.
Mm-hmm.
So pretty good job, David. Mini Paint Critique by Brian Shumway.
What do we got, Brian? Ooh, Brian has a War Song Revenant. Oh no, Brian, you got to give us better pictures than this, brother.
Brian, why is it so far away?
Brian,
Away.
he wanted space to put his tiny logo.
Give me the logo. Thine logo es brillante.
Is this a default model or is this a conversion?
Okay, so this is a Sylvaneth model. I honestly, I think it's as it is out of the box. Other than, I don't know if those big tendrils that are kind of coming forth from the base, the thorny vines.
Okay.
I don't know if those are true to the kit.
Okay, I'm going to look up what a War Song Revenant is just so I can see the kit. I'm just curious. Okay, so he elected to paint the skin like more of a flesh color, whereas the normal one is painted like the normal Revenant, kind of like ghostly skin kind of stuff.
Like them spite revenants and
Yes.
Doodle-doodle-doo. This is a flute player.
Yeah.
Are those thorny vines on there?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah, he's playing the song of his people right now. The Pied Piper. All right. I love the saturation of green on the skirt or dress thing. I think it's like really vibrant and really cool. I like how that color is continued on the flute trumpet. I think I want to see it in another spot, maybe like higher up on the model. Like the eggs on top, I think, okay, first of all, not even related to the paint job at all. This sculpt is all over the place. It's very bizarre. But
yes, it is.
The eggs on top of his mantle, some of them are hatching. And I think there are things coming out of them. I think if those things coming out of them were this same green progression, that would be like the last third green item that I want to see on the model to like kind of finish up the composition, because it kind of feels like the top half just like totally abandoned that idea in the scheme. That's my first thought.
My first thought is this is slap chopped.
You think so?
I would say so with 90% certainty. There's some telltale signs of this, and this does not mean bad. It just means that when you go over a white zenithal or a white dry brush, where the speed paint or contrast paint doesn't hit or doesn't settle, it's very like desaturated in color, and the saturation all lives in the shadows, and so it's just very like pale, faint, off, not saturated. Now the thing is like, so you can see it very plainly in the skin, on the hair, on all that brown from the stuff that's going up from over his shoulders. You can see it obvious on the little eggs. Where it's not as obvious is in areas like the blade, the blue blade, and then the green around his skirt, because I think that's a more saturated color, and he may have come back in with more saturated green there. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing. I'm just saying that like we have, based on which contrast or speed paint you used, there's different levels of definition of shapes that's being shown. Like that brown around the altar that's holding the frickin' eggs. I don't even know what the fuck that thing is with the roots coming off of it.
Yeah.
There is some good definition of shapes because of a less saturated speed paint that was used. But then when we get down to all the greens and stuff, I just lose all definition of shape.
Yeah, there's no recessed shading going on, or not much, are not enough in between the leaves, and so they kind of all look like one mass almost.
It gets lighter towards the end, but then there's no edge highlight.
That too. Also, there's like a texture on it.
Yes,
I don't know
there
if,
is.
Look, here's the normal model. That kind of looks like a typical like GW smooth kind of plastic thing with some like veins in it and stuff. And
Yeah,
like,
those are sculpted, I'm assuming. Yeah, they're sculpted. They're
Do you
not
think-
on there.
Do you think he? Okay, so you don't think he like added on like a texture paste to the?
No, I just
Okay.
think that they're not defined, and so it's kind of hard to read.
Okay.
Also, like the leg that's coming up that's painted brown, like I can't.
Yeah, that totally disappears.
It disappears. Yeah, I can't define that. I really like that you have made some really nice strong statements with color here, and I think that's off to a really good start from that purpose. But then I'm struggling to read the model because of the lack of definition of edges and shapes.
Yeah. I think your base is really awesome. I think actually from the back, I love like the forest floor is super varied and fun.
Yeah, with the ferns and stuff.
Yeah, I think that looks really cool. I do think this model is whack. Like I think
Yes.
this is really weird.
It's a hard model to paint.
Yeah, because like the thing is like these long branches and these vines and these long strands of hair, those are kind of difficult to express, like a fun color scheme on because they're so thin and so small and there's so little surface area, so it's challenging to paint.
Yeah, and then you painted that disc thing that the roots are going out to the same as the wood, and I don't think because that thing isn't organic, but all the eggs and the roots are organic. I think that those need to be separated via color and texture and painting, approach even
Yes,
a bit.
I completely agree. I think the blue sword is maybe a little bit too eye-catching, because like the whole thing kind of blends together a little bit, and then suddenly there's this very inorganic bright blue object that's just sticking out on the side, and like I don't know about you, but that's immediately where I looked when I first saw this thing, because it seems so, it's so vibrant and so eye-catching.
Yes, the fact that you used the blue on the eggs and on the sword,
That's good.
Is smart.
Yes.
But yeah, it's such a saturated, vibrant blue.
Like reuse that, like on his like armor gauntlets, or like on like maybe like the metal of the flute could have been that blue color. So it's like this color exists in your scheme, but it also exists in a place that's like close to the focal point of the model, right? Because then it can help you instead of like detracting from like the center mass of the model. I'm like looking at like the exterior of the model instead of like right in the middle.
Yeah, I would probably like edge highlight or highlight up the green on the skirt with a yellow. So you get like a yellow green to really define those shapes.
Yeah.
And then use that same yellow highlight color as the highlight color that you're building up with on the blue.
Bingo.
And that's
That's the winner.
Yeah, because they're close together. It brings them together, and you can still have that unique color.
That'll change the hue of the blue.
Yes.
It'll make it kind of green. But that'll work, though, with what you have going on here, 100%.
It feels very wooden elvy too.
Elvy.
Or the elves.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Brian Shumway.
This is a hard fucking model to paint. I don't envy this, and I think you did a good job because this thing makes my eyes cross just looking at it, not even painting the fucking thing.
Yeah.
So, and it's going to be striking on the table. So absolutely, you did that. You hit a lot of the check boxes correctly.
Yeah. And also, thank you for your patronage. We also appreciate that.
And submitting a model.
All right. Something new. I often talk about when I'm painting with a new paint range, how I don't have much to say about it because, on a surface level, they kind of all operate pretty well. But I've been using Vallejo Game Color a lot because it's on my desk and I'm lazy and I want to stand up. And so
that is a prime factor for what paint we use.
Yeah. Because they're all pretty good.
It's here.
Yeah. It's here and it doesn't suck ass.
Yes.
2 key factors in my decision making.
Yeah. And the one thing I have definitely noticed about Game Color compared to any other range that I've worked with is this paint splits like a motherfucker, like right away. Like if
on the palette,
in a cup, if I'm making, if I'm doing airbrushing, anything, like in 15 seconds, the hue will have changed because the pigment settles. If it's
like Vallejo metal color level of split.
I don't know, but literally 15 seconds, you will see a tangible difference in hue because the pigment is separating toward the bottom. And now the question I have to ask is, has it ever gotten in the way of me using it? A little swirl and I'm good to go.
Right.
So it's like, it's not that big of a deal, but like in a world where we have any paint range to choose from, I might pick the one that's more stable. But yeah, it's very unstable.
Yeah, I don't have very much of the new Vallejo Game Color. I do have that. I have a really nice, vibrant, dark purple that I bought. That, and I brought like a Scrag Brown, I think it's called, whatever. They have a really nice reddish brown that I've used before, so I bought both of those, and I used that purple actually for the kind of the shadow first layer for the skin of the gray seer. And I don't recall that happening, but I do recall it quickly. It got where it was like the top was very watery and the bottom was thicker. So I wonder if it was just like it was separating, but it's such a saturated pigment that I didn't see that, but it totally makes sense to me.
Yeah, I've been using it a bunch and it's been happening. It also might not happen for certain color, because I've also noticed there's inconsistency in the finish a little bit. There was a red paint that I used to paint Vader's cloak that was like, for some reason, very satin, and the rest of the range is like really matte, and it was really bizarre. It was called Red Gore, I think.
I wonder if there's a separation issue there too, because part of that is if that might come to the surface more, that glossy.
That could be it, yeah. So yeah, just noticing little things. That's how it works, That's why a paint range comparison video is so difficult, because you really don't notice these things until you use a decent amount of the range. Then you start to form some conclusions. So it's like, who's going to do that amount of work for all these ranges? And, while you're doing that, 8 new ranges come out. It's like, dude, screw this.
Yeah.
That's my thing.
You need a retrospective after a large amount of hours logged,
Yeah.
That's the kind of thing.
Yeah.
All right. So I did 2 things. One was kind of I don't know. So I want to do I want to do like a blind cloudy eye in one of the eyes. No, it's on the gray seer. And you can kind of see it if you look real close, but I don't know if I pulled it off. But I looked up shit on Google of actual people's eyes, and that was a little bit traumatic, but I did it. And I was like, okay, I can see how this is done. And then I did exactly that. And I'm just like, to scale, it's hard to see.
Yeah, this reminds me when I tried to paint the Queen Guinevere with blue pupils, and I was like, it doesn't really scale down, It's like hard to see. When I look at it, I see what you're doing. I see it, but like here, no chance.
Yeah. So I just did it and I left it, and I was kind of like, all right.
Yeah.
And that's fine. So that's one thing I tried and kind of learned is like, oh, it's not going to be a really. Maybe some other things in the painting process around the whole face and the decision of color making and all that to really sell it would maybe work, but maybe not. Also, I have my eyes very kind of like reddish bloodshot for all of my rats, and that plus the blue, I thought it would actually make it more accentuated, and it kind of didn't. So maybe that was part of it. But the other thing that I did that I think worked out a little bit better was in some of the hero models. I think like all the hero models of the Skaven in this set, they're all posed with or standing on or coming out of a sculpted base feature. And so the Grey Seer, he's on a bell that's like stuck in the ground. That's also have some of the support beam on there. So that's there. And it had more stuff. Actually, that base is all the way to the ground where the bell's coming out of. And it's a circle that covers the full 32 mils. That is just a generic ground base. And so what I was like, I can't just do that because that doesn't look like the rest of my model. So I carved down a bunch of that around the edges, and then using my standard method of putty plus 3D printed like cobblestone-y bits, I sculpted so it made it look like my cityscape was part of their sculpted base to kind of integrate them, and that worked pretty well.
I find that by using a combo of putty plus your 3D printed like ground bits, you can kind of like squish them in. I basically make a little ball or a snake. And I just put that on the base, and then I squish the piece of like the cobblestone or the ruined wall, squish it right onto that putty, and then I use my clay shaper to like form it to give us a natural kind of gradation of the ground, and then kind of just do that all the way around so it feels more pushed in and not just glued on top of. And that worked well, kind of working with the rats that are coming out of the bell, working with the bell itself, and then strategically placing a couple of tufts around there in spots that were a little bit more bare. It kind of covers those, and it worked well. So it's not difficult to take that. And actually the big rat-on-rat dude, the big leader dude in the box, I actually have him all based and sculpted already for that, and there was a little bit more involved in doing that one than this smaller 32 mil base, and I was really happy with how that turned out too.
It's like painting, right? Like you need little bits that remind you of the other bases. So the cobblestones in this case that kind of link it together, right?
Yeah, and you have to recognize where you have space and how much of that space to use and how much of the space to let breathe.
Sure.
Right. And so, it's kind of figuring out what defines the basing elements that you're using and make sure enough of those elements are there on all of your bases, but they're not so matchy that they feel somewhat unique. You can be a little bit more unique on the hero models, right? That's the fun part of hero models, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And so I was like, I'm not going to cut this fucker off this bell. That's kind of a cool part of it.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
Wispy cloak bits go low, then I'd have to deal with all that. I'm not doing that. So
yeah.
Just make it unique.
Ready to do this thing?
This is the end of the podcast where Scott says,
lightsabers. If you like the podcast, nay, if you love it, and you do, and you want to support it, there are many ways you can do that, both free and not free. Some non-free ways are to watch our episodes with ads enabled on YouTube. We run an ad every 30 minutes, and that gets us like 1/10 of a cent per view.
Nice.
You can also share our podcast either on video or the multiple audio versions that exist with your friends. We're on all the major podcast applications, and you can also review our podcast on those apps. That helps us rise to the top, much like John's army painting efforts against Vince. The cream
does rise.
The cream. Did the thing just stop recording again? I feel like I'm seeing no blinking red. Did we seriously talk for 2.5 hours?
Probably.
Oh my God.
It is 12:15.
Yeah, we're almost recording for 3 hours. We gotta fucking cut this podcast.
What we learned is there's too many sins. So there's just going to be like a still of us for the next 30 seconds while we wrap this fucker up.
Yeah. If you want to give us some of that hard-earned dosh so you don't spend it on hobby stuff and commit more sins, you can invest in our Patreon, which gets you access to an extended episode, which is about 20 to 30 minutes longer, where we chat about all kinds of fun stuff like other models from other painters that we love, that we've discovered in the past 2 weeks, talk about new things we tried out in the hobby and what went right and what went wrong. We talk about we give feedback to one of our viewers, and also as part of being a patron, you can suggest topics. Like today, we had a topic from a viewer. So you can get access to all those things just being a patron on our podcast. We also have things down in the description like merch that you can pick up, cool hoodies, cool cups, cool leggings, all kinds of stuff with our various top designs on them.
Gosh, I've zoned out there.
I know.
Great job,
So
Scott.
did everyone else listening to the podcast.
Great job, Scott. We're going to catch you in a fortnight for the next episode of the podcast. And until then, we'll catch you on the
flop. I'm like doing hand motions, but there's no fucking video recording. Like, what am I doing?
None. You get to know the freedom of not being seen. Bye.